What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto has gravity release? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Dear journal, or diary, or whatever the hell you are. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I am a 12-year-old boy with ocean blue eyes and spiky red hair. I live alone in a small apartment near the red light district, and if it wasn't obvious by the fact that I live alone, then you should know that I am an orphan. One can usually find me wearing my shinobi outfit, which is simply a red muscle shirt with black pants tied with white tape around the ankles, and also black shinobi sandals. I usually have a brown weapons pouch attached to my left thigh too. It all happened 2 years ago. At the time, I was an extremely ignorant individual. I didn't know anything about the world, about shinobi, and about life in general. Hell, I didn't even know anything about my own life. I didn't know who my dad was. I didn't know who my mother was. I didn't know why everyone in the village hated my guts. And I didn't even know that I hailed from such a prestigious and powerful clan. At that time, I was nothing but a lonely and hopelessly desperate individual. I was doing my 4th year at the Shinobi Academy, and I was by far the dead last in the class. Uchiha Itachi, Senju Guren, Uchiha Sasuke, Kurama Yakumo, Hyuga Neji were all at the very top of the class. The elite of the elite by a great margin. The middle class were far behind these elites. They were Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino, Akamichi Choji, Inazuka Kiba, Hanabi's less talented sister, Hyuga Hinata, and Aburame Shino. Following that were the lower class, consisting mainly of Amy and her crew, along with other guys that I don't even know that well. They dropped out recently anyway. Then finally, last and least of all, far below the lower class, which was far below the middle class, which was also far below the elite, was Uzumaki Naruto, in other words, me. I even had my own category at the bottom of the class. It was so embarrassing. Our teacher, Mizuki, saw my pain and desperation more than anyone else, and did not shy away from using it to his own benefit and to my intended demise. He convinced me that there was a way to graduate early and become a genin of Konoha's elite shinobi forces, and said that because my stealth skills were the highest in the class, that I was the only one that could complete this early graduation evaluation. Narurally, the idiot me bought it hook, line and sinker. After all, it was true. I did have the best stealth skills out of anyone in the academy, and even most seasoned shinobi. I'd had real-time practice since I became consciously aware of myself. Even the mission specifics verified that I was indeed the only one who could do it. Who else could sneak into the Hokage's office to steal a scroll other than the guy who was able to paint the Hokage monument in broad daylight without getting caught until I was done? The added incentive of learning a jutsu from the Forbidden Scroll did little to dissuade me at all. And so it was. Mizuki gave me a very convincing fake scroll to replace with the original so that no one would notice that it had gone missing. He'd said that the mission had to be conducted as if it was real because this was an evaluation to see how I would cope with a real mission, hence the need to fool everyone into thinking that the scroll was still there. He gave me a map and a step-by-step procedure to sneak in and out without detection. He also gave me the coordinates for our rendezvous point and the time that we would meet. Luckily for me, or rather thanks to him underestimating my enthusiasm and skills, I was able to complete the mission and arrive at our rendezvous point long before our meeting time, without getting caught or triggering any alarm systems. Since I had time to spare, I spent the next few hours learning some jutsu from the scroll. I had always failed the clone technique at the academy, and it had always been a sensitive issue with me, given how often I got teased about it and how weak the clone jutsu was supposed to be. I thought that I could redeem myself and make even the elite group jealous if I learned an advanced cloning technique that creates real clones instead of mere illusions. I was surprised at how easy these clone jutsu came to me. I managed to learn the shadow clone technique, the shadow kunai clone technique, and the shadow shuriken clone technique long before Mizuki arrived. That's when an idea came to mind. I wanted to be the Hokage, right? And this was a scroll full of powerful forbidden jutsu that only the Hokages had full access to, right? But Mizuki was going to take away the scroll after he evaluates my accomplishments, and I might have never seen the scroll again for all I knew. That's why I decided to copy everything down. With the help of my clones, jotting down everything was surprisingly quick and easy. I also discovered that my shadow clones actually retain all the memories of their experiences and transfer them back to me in a form similar to photographic memory. This was an exciting prospect, and I couldn't wait to start fiddling and experimenting with the jutsu. In any case, there was one particular memory that intrigued me to no end. One of the clones was able to spot a small seal at the bottom right edge of the scroll. We'd been briefed slightly, and I mean very slightly, on seals at the academy, and fortunately, I had attended that particular class. I didn't know much at the time, but I knew enough to know that either blood or chakra was required to activate a seal, sometimes even both. I was known as Adobe, but even I wasn't stupid enough to try using my blood on the damn seal. If I spilled blood over the scroll and the seal didn't activate, then my blood would have been on the scroll in Mizuki and the Hokage would have known that I'd tried to activate the seal. So I decided to use chakra, and once again, was surprised at how easy things were turning out to be. 4 journals appeared with a puff of smoke from the little chakra that I managed to channel onto the scroll. I almost had an orgasm when I realized whose journals those were. Yes, you guessed it, only the 4 Hokages, from the first to the reigning 4th, all my heroes, of course. I was disappointed that the greatest hero of the village who stopped the evil Kyuubi, the yellow flash Namikaze Minato, didn't have a journal in there, but then again, he wasn't a Hokage, so I guess it was understandable. Now this was something I didn't even think twice about adding to my copied jutsu arsenal. Yes, at the time, those journals were considered to be greater than any jutsu scroll. I quickly made 4 more clones, and had each clone copy a journal as quickly as possible. When the clones finished and dispelled themselves, I was bombarded with a whole lot of crazy information. I couldn't believe all the secrets that were kept by the Hokage from the people of the village, the secrets kept from me. I didn't think I could possibly get any angrier than I was feeling at that moment. My mother was the heiress of the supposedly non-existent Uzumaki clan. My father was the yellow fucking flash. How could the village defile my parents' legacy despite the sacrifices they made for their undeserving souls? And why was everything kept away from me? Uzu Shiogakure, the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Mito, and my mom, Uzumaki Kushina. And if Uzumaki Mito was my relative, that meant that Lady Tsunade was my relative. That meant that my long-term crush, Guren, was my cousin. All of this kept away from me. It made me wonder just how much Guren was involved in this sinister plot. I mean, she has to have pictures of her family, and there had to be records of the Senju compound. There was just no way that she didn't know that her great-grandmother was an Uzumaki. The chances of that were very slim. I wasn't sure, but I suspected that she was aware of this all this time. She wasn't the only girl I'd asked out since I joined the academy. I'd asked a lot of girls out as an experiment, just to find out what most of the female population thought about me. The responses had ranged from blatant disgust accompanied by hurtful insults to brutal rejection in the form of beatings. Guren, however, was always polite and at least had a cushion waiting for me when she rejected me. Despite my persistence, she'd never been mean, nor had she even lifted a finger on me. Sometimes I could have sworn that I saw compassion and sadness in her eyes when she'd turned me down. Nevertheless, there had been more important things to ponder about, like my mom and dad's house in the forest behind the Hokage monument that should have been given to me. Or the Kyuubi that was sealed inside of me apparently because members of the Uzumaki clan had special powers to suppress and tame Biju. Or the fact that both my mom and Uzumaki Mito were brought to Konoha merely to serve as prisoners for the fox. Suddenly, the thought of becoming Hokage disgusted me. I couldn't believe all of the evil deeds and secrets that these guys kept. Worst of all, was the history of mine and the Uchiha clan. I remember feeling so angry at the time, but also feeling equally as frightened. If the Hokage and the Konoha higher-ups were capable of such heinous sins, what would befall me if they found out about what I did? What would befall me if they found out about what I now knew? I had to face the facts. At my level at the time, I was extremely weak. There was no way I would successfully escape Konoha's clutches, and there was no way I would be able to defeat them, Kyuubi Jinchuriki or not. According to the Yondaimi's journal, there were already 2 Senju that had powers similar to the Shoden. An experimental guy called Senju Tenzo, who was basically created by Orochimaru, and Princess Tsunade and Yondaime-sama's firstborn son, Senju Yukimaru. They would be able to stop me if I allowed the Kyuubi to take over. Heck, I didn't even know how to use the Kyuubi's chakra at the time. I knew how to use a storage scroll. It was one of the first things we were taught in our second year, so I figured that resealing the original versions of the journals wouldn't be too hard. And I was right, it wasn't. I could sense that Mizuki was on his way. His chakra was kind of foul, but that was something that my desperation had allowed me to ignore at the time that he convinced me to go on this treasure hunt. I've always been able to sense chakra, but I've always pretended that I couldn't. It would have been harder to survive this long if my attackers knew that I'd been able to sense them long before they got to me and either escaped or set up traps for them. In any case, for once in my life, my mind was not clouded by desperation and loneliness. I was able to reason thoroughly. Mizuki had tricked me, that much was obvious. No one would allow any academy student, especially me, anywhere near this scroll. Mizuki probably wanted to steal this scroll for himself, but was afraid of getting caught with no way to escape and so decided to use me instead. He probably planned to monitor me from a distance and quickly make his escape if I got caught so that he wouldn't be around when I ratted him out. Good thing I was too stupid and childish to contain my excitement. If I hadn't gone there earlier than our originally agreed upon time, Mizuki would have arrived before I even read the scroll and slaughtered me. In any case, I was now prepared. I was gonna kill Mizuki, get rid of his body, and then return the original scroll and its contents while reclaiming the fake one that I left at the office. It would be like nothing ever happened. This was a kill or be killed situation. With careful use of the shadow clone technique and its variations, I could successfully kill Mizuki. That guy was weak, he was just a chunin. I was an Uzumaki, a Jinchuriki, and I had a perfect plan and preparation time with the shadow clone and its variations. Mizuki would have no chance. However, I was the one that had no chance. I tried everything, multiple shadow shuriken clone technique, shadow kunai clone technique, 200 shadow clone barrage, everything. But nothing seemed to work. I was able to injure him and slow him down, but that had not been enough. It dawned on me that perhaps Mizuki was not such a weak chunin after all. Perhaps he wasn't even chunin level, but actually a jonin level under the guise of a weak chunin. Even my fail-safe plan didn't work, or should I say, my shadow clone's fail-safe plan, which in hindsight, was really childish and juvenile, no matter how much it almost worked. One of my shadow clones, with my impending death at hand, had received a moment of inspiration. Using the transformation technique to transform himself into the Hokage and call out Mizuki, asking him what he was doing and threatening him of execution. The plan had worked. Mizuki had frozen on the spot with an expression of someone who had just seen a ghost. That had been long enough for me to whoop out a kunai and aim for his jugular. The bastard had recovered quicker than either me or my shadow clone had thought possible and dodged at the last minute, the kunai only hitting and disabling his right shoulder and arm. The bastard had gone on to defeat both I and my shadow clone. I remember lying there on my back defeated physically, emotionally, and mentally. Mizuki was about to penetrate my throat with a kunai and I was wondering to myself why my parents had abandoned me to death and left me at the hands of this cursed village of rabid wolves. I also remember feeling angry at the Hokage, angry at the Senju, angry at my parents, angry at the village, angry at the world, but most of all, angry at myself for being so weak. It was as if something inside of me snapped, although, it could just have been the snapping sound of Mizuki's bones that I heard as he and everything else around me was violently smashed, blasted, repelled, or whatever word you wanna use, away from me with the power and might of a literal gravitational force. Everything around me was sent flying away, even the trees and the earth itself, leaving a giant crater below and around me. I was drained of energy. I wanted to do nothing but to just lie down there and sleep until tomorrow. That jutsu, Shinra Tensai, took a hell out of me, that, coupled with the chakra that my body was siphoning out of my chakra coils to regulate my injuries. But I couldn't afford to, nor did I have time to wonder how I might have done what I just did. At the time, I was content to just think it was the Kyuubi's doing, that, or some kind of secret bloodline that was kept away from my ears, no surprise there. Anyway, moving along, I disposed of Mizuki's body and returned the scroll to its rightful place without getting caught. I was unable to sleep for what must have been months. Make no mistake, I wasn't scared of Mizuki's ghost or anything like that, nor did I feel any remorse for killing him. I was just so scared. Scared that the Hokage and his ANBU would come and arrest me at any moment. I was really scared that Mizuki's death would somehow be linked back to me. I even thought about breaking into Mizuki's house so that I can find anything he might have written on a piece of paper. I wanted to fake his handwriting so that I can leave behind a letter in his apartment. A letter saying his goodbyes and how he would live a free life without the inhibitions of his duties, a life as a rogue shinobi. However, I was too scared to do even that. I was scared to do anything really. However, I knew that I would get caught very quickly if I stopped pitching at the academy at the same time that Mizuki disappeared. I had no choice but to carry on going to school and pretend that everything was fine. In other words, I had to continue to act like the regular idiotic Naruto. However, I had no intention of carrying on with this act for long. I simply couldn't stand that image any longer. Hell, I couldn't stand to even think about the ignorant fool that I used to be. I started changing a few things, slowly of course. It would be too suspicious if I all of a sudden did a complete 180. It took 6 months to do it, and another 6 months for people to even really take note of it. Before anyone was the wiser, the Dobi Uzumaki Naruto had vanished right in front of their eyes and replaced with a promising and talented youngster. I had changed my outfit, my outlook, and my behavior. All in all, I had created a completely different identity. The pranks became less and less as time went on. People heard my voice a lot less often, never mind hearing, they didn't even see me that often anymore. There were a few reasons for this. For one, I spend a lot more time training and reading nowadays. If I wasn't reading the Hokage journals, I was reading up on a new jutsu or learning about the history of the shinobi world. I also spend a lot of time reading bingo books that I had won during gambling or stolen from a drunken genin or two. Despite my greatest fears, I finally went and visited my parents' house. I realized as soon as I arrived that no one else could have been inside that place since my parents died. The sheer number and complexity of the security seals surrounding the house was more than enough evidence. This time, a combination of my blood and chakra and nothing less was required to grant me access. I had lost my regular ANBU tail easily, and I had even gone as far as replacing myself with a reinforced shadow clone this time, one that would last for a month if it didn't go into any major battles or training sessions that were too intense or chakra consuming. So I had figured that I could be here for quite a while. I broke down and cried when I saw the picture of my pregnant mother and my father with his hand on her belly. The picture looked so serene. I could tell just from the picture that they were truly in love with each other, and I could also see that they were excited about the baby, me. This was further confirmed when I saw a room with my name embroidered on the door. When I went inside, I saw my crib and all the toys and decorations around the room. There was a picture of my mother on the left wall and one of my father on the right. The emotions that consumed me at that time cannot be described with mere words. It is something one has to experience themselves to understand. There was a lot of food stored in storage scrolls for preservation. Enough to last me for a decade. My parents must have planned for the worst when they prepared all of this stuff. One of the most defining moments though were the letters from both my mom and dad that were left behind for me. I'd already realized by the feel of the house and the setup itself that I was indeed loved and not abandoned by my parents, but it was even better to read it from their own handwriting. Apart from the vigorous declarations of love and faith in me, there were other things that my parents left for me in their letters, not least of which was the location of our family library and access to a training program specially designed for me. A program involving my mother's physical and chakra control training and my father's speed and taijutsu training. There was also a training program for wind, water, fire, earth, and even lightning elemental training. I discovered that I had a strong wind affinity and I've been training that element ever since. The program did mention that a person was required to learn 2 nature transformation before they were promoted to Jonin, but my time has been taken up by my futon training and my gravity manipulation training. I don't have a guide or mentor to teach me how to master gravity, so I've had to learn everything through trial and error. Still, I figured that wind and gravity would take me very far, especially gravity. The things one can do with gravity are so many and so powerful and diverse it's unbelievable. Next to sealing and barrier arts, gravity is without a doubt my favorite and best forte. Speaking of seals, I had to give it to my ancestors. Those guys were beasts. I had to give it to my dad too. That flying Raijin is something else. I'm so glad that he left it for me. It's only a matter of time before I'm ready to start learning it. And mom's chakra chain technique too. I think I'll be one of the strongest, if not the strongest shinobi of all time when I learn those jutsu. But the seal has been locked and will only unlock itself after 16 years. That means that I still have to wait for 4 whole years before I receive that part of my inheritance. But that's fine, that will just give me time to make my own seals and to experiment further with my wind and gravity. I also want to improve the Rasengan. Dad said that he had planned to mold nature chakra into the Rasengan. Hopefully, I can accomplish these feats before that seal activates. Then I'll learn my mom and dad's trademark techniques. I can barely contain my excitement. In any case, today is the day that they announce the Genin teams. I am currently in the classroom with the middle class and elite group. The lower class was declared unfit to become shinobi at the beginning of this calendar year and forced to drop out of the academy. As a consequence, despite my rise to the middle class over the past 2 years, I'm still the dead last of the class. My results over the first 4 years have ensured that it be that way. The ranking order is as follows. 1. Uchiha Itachi. 2. Senju Gurren. 3. Hyuga Neji. 4. Uchiha Sasuke. 5. Kurama Yakumo. 6. Nara Shikamaru. 7. Aburame Shino. 8. Inazuka Kiba. 9. Hyuga Hinata. 10. Yamanaka Ino. 11. Akamichi Choji. 12. Uzumaki Naruto. I remember that bastard Sasuke complaining about his ranking, saying he must have been cheated or some kind of mistake had been made. Iruka-sensei told him not to take the rankings too serious though, stating that there was barely any difference at all between the people in the elite class. And it was true, all of them received full marks for almost everything. Itachi literally got full marks for everything, even the elusive Genjutsu exam. In fact, Genjutsu was the only significant difference between he and Sasuke. Gurren also got full marks for everything. Her Genjutsu was weaker than Sasuke's, but she got second place because she actually defeated him in 6-4 on all their spars since they joined the academy. Neji, like Itachi, are unbeaten in a spar. The 2 times they were charged against each other both ended in draws. They were evenly matched and no one had a clear advantage until time ran out. Yakumo received full marks in ninjutsu and genjutsu, but her taijutsu was below par. Still better than most of the middle class though. Anyway, right now I'm inside the classroom for what is probably the last time I sit in this room. As usual, I'm sitting far away from everyone else and minding my own business. The Hokage, Kato Dan, just gave some speech about the will of fire and all of that nonsense. It's been said many times now that this is by far the most talented batch of students coming from one class since the founding of Konoha. Perhaps that is why the Hokage has decided to come to welcome us into the ranks personally. He's about to announce the teams and the senseis of said teams. The senseis are right outside the door. I've sensed some powerful chakra signatures outside the classroom. One stands out in particular. I wonder who it is, and whose sensei he's going to be. Oh, and did I mention that the Hokage's wife and the Konoha elders, the god of shinobi included, are also present? Iruka really looks out of place up there. He's an ant standing amongst elephants, it really looks out of place. Danzo looks particularly dangerous, he's a really scary guy. The first had to give him that. That crippled old man Farcade only makes him look even more dangerous somehow. Hiruzen is still playing the kind old man role like the manipulative master that he is. It's really hard to believe that these guys ordered Shishui to kill his clan. I've literally had nightmares about the evil Shunshin Shishui who cold-heartedly killed his own family. To think that he was nothing but a pawn under orders from the elders and the Hokage is really mind-shattering, and humbling too. I wonder if Makoto-sama knows about this. I wonder if the twins know. And if they don't, should I tell them about it? Nah, I have to protect myself and my own interests for now. They'd surely want to know how I stumbled on that little piece of information. I can't exactly tell them that I stole the scroll of seals and copied everything in it, including the Hokage's journals. And even if they didn't ask me that question, what if they confronted the Hokage about it? He would surely want to know about their source. Nah, I'll let things play out for now and see what happens. Anyway, back to the team announcements. Yes, finally, the Hokage seems to have the list with him. We'll finally find out. You will be deployed in the following teams. Dan trailed off, taking a deep breath and even extending the pause intentionally to create suspense. Team 7, Uchiha Sasuke, Kurama Yakumo, and Uchiha Itachi. Your sensei will be Hitaki Kakashi. Dan announced with a big, friendly smile as Kakashi walked through the door and into the classroom. The copy ninja only making it on time because he was told that the ceremony would be 3 hours earlier. Hitaki Kakashi, huh? He's a wielder of the Sharingan just like I and Sasuke, and was teammates with Uchiha Obito under the Yellow Flash's tutorship. The fact that he has the Sharingan too makes it unsurprising that he would become our sensei. With Yakumo-san also joining our team, I guess this would make us a team with Genjutsu as our main theme. Itachi thought silently. Itachi is a 12-year-old boy with black hair that has 2 bangs framing his face and a short ponytail, wearing a black turtleneck shirt with the Uchiha emblem at the back, black shinobi pants with white tape on the ankles, and black shinobi sandals with a brown weapons pouch on his right thigh. He also has dark eyes with tear troughs running down his cheeks from his eyes. His twin brother, Sasuke, has no ponytail and no tear troughs, but has the same hair color, but his hair is a little wilder with a ducktail as well. Their eyes are the same eye color and even their outfits are the same, with the exception of Sasuke's turtleneck Uchiha shirt being dark blue in color. Yakumo on the other hand is an exotic and lithe beauty with milky skin, chocolate brown, mysterious eyes, and long brown hair, wearing tight black shorts with a short black skirt over them and a dark blue and form-fitting vest. She is also spotting a blue weapons pouch and blue, stylized shinobi sandals. Yo! Kakashi greeted with a small, casual wave, his eyes never leaving his ICHA storybook. You'll have to excuse Kakashi-san, he may have an unhealthy obsession with his novels, but he is a fine shinobi who is always paying attention to his surrounds, despite his best efforts at fooling us into thinking that he isn't. In any case, Sasuke-kun, Itachi-kun, Yakumo-chan, if you could please come and stand next to your sensei. Dan requested with his usual cheerful and kind demeanor. Hi, Hokage-sama. The trio saluted as they hurriedly went to take their places next to their new sensei. Okay. From now on I expect you to come up to the front after I call out yours and your teammate names. You will stand next to your sensei so that at the end of it all, we can all take a picture together. Dan ordered. Any questions? The Hokage asked. Okay. Well, the next team, Team 8, will be Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, and Aburame Shino. Your sensei will be Yuhi Kurenai. Dan announced just as expected, Kurenai walked into the classroom and her team walked up to stand by her side. I'm glad Kurenai-san is my teacher, but I wish I was in Naruto-kun's team. Hinata thought as she walked up to the front, not really sure whether to be happy or disappointed, happy because she was in her friend and sister figure's team, or sad because Naruto wasn't in her team. It's not the best team, but it's not a bad one either. The potential is immense, we just have to work hard and believe in ourselves, especially you, Hinata. Shino thought logically. Damn, I wanted to be in Gurren-chan or Yakumo-chan's team. Arg, but it's not really that bad. Hinata is a swag girl and I'm sure she's hiding a Y figure under those baggy clothes. Kiba thought with a perverted smirk. Hinata, I'm sorry I couldn't get Naruto into my team. I tried my best but was denied despite my best efforts and intentions. However, I will turn you into a powerful, independent, and confident kunoichi. Naruto will be running after you before you know it. Kurenai vowed to herself. A Hyuga, Inuzuka, and Aburame in the same team. No doubt about it, this is a tracking team. Itachi thought with conviction. Okay, next up. Team 9 is still in circulation, therefore, the next team will be Team 10, consisting of Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, and Akamichi Choji. Your sensei will be Sarutobi Asuma. The Hokage announced as indeed the Sandame's son walked into the classroom with an unlit cigarette inside his mouth. I'm not surprised that they decided to remake the Ino Shikacho, but it still sucks that I have to be with a troublesome woman like Ino. Shikamaru thought with exasperation as he and his teammates walked to the front of the room. Oh my god, why me? Why do I have to be with that lazy bastard and that fat pig? This will ruin my reputation so badly. Why couldn't I have gotten at least one of the hot elite guys, even if it isn't Itachi? I would have been content with Sasuke-kun or Neji-kun. A frustrated Ino thought on the verge of pulling her own hair out. But of course, she couldn't do that to her beautiful hair, nor would she ever embarrass herself in front of the Hokage and her three musketeers, Itachi, Neji, Sasuke. As if it wasn't embarrassing enough that she was in a team of buffoons. Yeah, I get to be in Shikamaru's team. That's great. A happy Choji thought as he bounced down the stairs and to the front of the class next to his teammates and sensei. A recon and interrogation team, so they are reincarnating the Ino Shika Choha? Not a bad idea, Itachi thought contently. And last but not least, Team 11, Uzumaki Naruto, Senju Gurren, and Hyuga Neji. Your sensei will be Jiraiya of the Densetsu no Sannin. The Hokage, Dan announced much to everyone of the new Genin's surprise, none of the elder shinobi sharing their surprise as they had already been informed of the Sannin's request to tutor Senju Gurren and Uzumaki Naruto. Even the usually passive Hyuga Neji, the emotionless Uchiha twins, and the enigmatic Naruto couldn't hide their emotions this time. So he's the one that had the stronger and high-capacity chakra that I was sensing. If what I learned from my parents' house is anything to go by, then it makes perfect sense. He used to carry a torch for Lady Tsunade and he was my father's sensei. Looking at it this way, Gurren and I being in the same team and he being our sensei is something I shouldn't be surprised by. Naruto thought to himself as he walked to the front of the class, showing no emotions whatsoever as he made brief eye contact with the Toad Sannin on his way to join his team. This was unexpected, definitely nothing to be taken at face value. A Sannin taking on a Genin team is nothing to be taken lightly. But then again, he and Lady Tsunade are friends, it's likely that she was only worried about Gurren and asked her friend to take care of her. No, what am I saying, this has to be about the Kyuubi and Naruto. Itachi thought with more than a little suspicion. Why does the Dobi get to have a Sannin for a sensei? Could it be because of the Kyuubi? Sasuke pondered with a hint of jealousy. I'm in the same team as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and one of the last remaining Senju, on top of that, I get a Sannin as a sensei. I always thought that things would get a lot more interesting when I graduate the academy, but this is better than I thought it would be. The Hyuga prodigy thought to himself. Neji is a little surprising, but Naruto is in my team just like Mom always said he would be. Mom says that I have the potential to control Biju like Yukimaru Ni-san, Uncle Tenzo, and Great-Grandpa Hashirama. Plus, Naruto-kun is family, so it's only natural that things turned out like this. Gurren thought. I'm just glad that he finally started taking things seriously. I can't help but wonder what would have happened if he stayed at the bottom of the class like he was 2 years ago. Would he have been forced to drop out like the others? No, he wouldn't have, but how would Dad have explained that to the others who were dropped? Gurren pondered with a little relief. 10 minutes later. Flash. Okay, that was the last of the pictures to be taken. Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, you may take your teams to your respective training grounds and get properly acquainted with each other. Jiraiya, if you and your team could stay behind for a little while. Dan requested, even though everyone in the room, even the new Genin recognized it for the order that it actually was. The Hokage, his wife Tsunade, the 4 elders, Jiraiya, and Jiraiya's Genin team watched quietly as everyone departed the classroom. That was before the Hokage cut through the silence again, having forgotten to dismiss one other person. Iruka, you're also free to go. Dan ordered not so subtly. Hi, Hokage-sama. Please forgive me. An embarrassed Iruka replied, hastily making his way out of the classroom as soon as the Hokage's words registered in his mind. There was a brief silence between the remaining occupants of the room after Iruka's departure. The Hokage's eyes roaming and honing in on everyone in the classroom before settling on the spiky-haired redhead. Dan's eyes stayed zeroed in on the redhead Jinchuriki. However, if the young Uzumaki was bothered by the attention he was now receiving from not only the Hokage, but everyone else in the room who had followed the Hokage's gaze, then he certainly didn't show it. The young Uzumaki content to just stare at the space in front of him with his hands in his pockets. Naruto. Dan trailed off with a serious tone. Hokage-sama. Naruto trailed off with a small bow as he finally locked gazes with the Hokage. Dan said nothing for a while, his dark green eyes trying to penetrate the young Uzumaki's soul in search for answers, but coming out empty-handed, the young Jinchuriki showing neither positive nor any negative emotions. A simply blank stare, all there was to meet the Hokage's gaze. You haven't visited me for a while, in fact, you've only visited once in the last 12 months. You used to visit me at least once a week, what happened? Dan asked with curiosity and compassion. He'd promised Minato that he would take care of his son, and he thought he'd done his best to protect him up until now. He'd even come to consider the young redhead as a sort of second son, or at the very least a sort of nephew. However, Naruto had changed over the last 2 years. He'd become increasingly distant not just from him, but from everyone in the village. He didn't even go to Ichirakusen 8th as often as he used to, such was the dramatic change in behavior. He'd always encouraged Naruto to form bonds with others, and he'd always taught him that the will of fire was born of the love one has for his friends and family and his desire to protect them. That's why he'd been happy when at least he knew that Naruto had taken his words to heart, as he had always tried to make friends. Dan had heard that the Uzumaki Jinchuriki had carried a torch for his daughter for a long time. It had been a very open secret that almost everyone he'd ever met knew about. However, Naruto didn't even seem to care about his daughter anymore. He barely looked at her, never mind talking to her. Part of him, the daddy side of him, was relieved. He didn't want any boy poking his daughter just yet. It would inevitably happen at some point in the future, but she was still his little princess for now. But part of him, the militant, Hokage, and logical side of him, was displeased. With Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato's blood running through his veins, and the Kyuubi sealed inside of him, Naruto's potential was nearly limitless. That's why he wanted to keep Naruto as close to him and his family as possible, even if it meant forcing him and his daughter into an arranged marriage in the future. He'd prefer that they fall in love on their own terms, but that didn't seem likely to happen anytime soon. Gurren had rejected all of Naruto's advances. She genuinely didn't seem interested. That had been fine for him because he had known that Naruto would never give up on her. Well, that was until the boy changed his outlook completely. He honestly didn't know what to expect from the boy right now. The Hokage's thought trail, however, was broken by the soft-spoken and smooth red-haired's voice as he answered the Hokage's question. Well, you know, children grow and they eventually become independent and self-sufficient. It's a transition that tends to happen much faster for orphans like us. Isn't that right, Neji-san? Naruto replied casually, while at the same time acting fast to divert the conversation away from the Hokage. Don't try to group me together with the likes of you. You will not find the common ground that you are looking for. You and I are not at the same level, dead last Dobi. Neji replied with the kind of passive cruelty that had everyone's in the classroom's hearts in their mouths. Well, I guess you're right. You and I really aren't at the same level. I'm a lower class dead last, but at least I'm not a family slave. Naruto retorted with calm and composed vengeance, causing the usually ice-cool Neji to completely flip out of his mind. The Hyuga prodigy, without a single word, instantly going for a killing blow on his new teammate, twisting his arm around with his palm facing the blonde Uzumaki as he released an air palm from point-blank range. Everyone, the Hokage, Gurren, the elders, the two Sannin, and even Naruto were completely caught off guard. No one expecting that kind of reaction from the noble and emotionally passive Hyuga. The result? Naruto was blasted away at rapid speeds, through the wall, through a number of walls, to the outside, through 2 trees, and straight into the earth. His body getting smashed violently, resulting in a crater in and around where his body finally landed. What the fuck do you think you're doing, you piece of shit? That was totally uncalled for. Tsunade, the first to break out of her stupor, shouted angrily. Uncalled for? Then I'm afraid that we have a difference of opinions. Neji replied apathetically. Why you? That's enough. Both of you. Dan warned with a spike of killing intent, freezing both Tsunade and Neji in place with the potency of his chakra and the reality of his intent, making everyone aware that behind the dorky and friendly demeanor lies a stone-cold ninja warrior, a true killer, and a very powerful one at that. But look what he did to Naruto-kun. I said enough. Tsunade. The Hokage ordered, his chakra release levels spiking through the roof now, causing Tsunade to, very reluctantly, submit to her husband and superior. What the hell? Why am I so scared? Why is my heart beating so fast? Why do I feel like I have a spear driven right through my heart? I feel like I'm about to die. What's happening to me? Can he really do this with killing intent and chakra alone? Is this the gap between us? Is this the level of a cage? Neji thought fearfully. No. I'm the greatest genius to ever come out of the Hyuga clan. My chakra is unnaturally strong. My body flexible and strong beyond the dreams of any other Hyuga. My chakra control, my skills, my intellect, my dujutsu. There's no way that this clanless idiot, Hokage or not, can have more talent than I. He may be stronger now, but it is only a matter of time before I surpass him and stand at the very top. I won't lose my composure, I won't lose my resolve. Neji thought with determination as he fought and won the battle within himself, regaining his composure even under the pressure of the Hokage's ki with his will alone. As for you, Hyuga Neji, the Hokage muttered darkly, although, to Neji, and everyone within hearing sight, it sounded like, or rather, felt like he was literally screaming his lungs out in fury. What is it? Neji replied rudely, turning around to face the Hokage without a shred of fear or remorse in neither his voice, expression, or overall demeanor. I have nothing to be afraid of. Whatever he does, he will not and cannot afford to kill me. And if I can survive the caged bird seal, I can survive anything. Neji thought with reassurance. This child, he is not scared at all. Is it a sign of his strength of will, his emotional control, or his arrogance and stupidity? Nevertheless, he has definitely caught my interest. Danzo thought with intrigue dancing in his one visible eye. You will report to Morino Ibiki at 8 a.m. every morning for the next 5 days. You will meet with him at ANBU HQ, understand? Yes, Neji replied. Yes to who? Yes, Hokage-sama. Neji droned out. See to it that you remember that next time. Dan ordered. Now, Tsunade, Gurren, Jiraiya, go check on, The Hokage trailed off in surprise, watching with surprise, along with everyone else as the blonde Uzumaki walked into the room through the hole that his body made as if nothing had happened, not a single injury visible on his entire body. There was dirt and tears on his clothing, but his body seemed to be in perfect condition. Naruto-kun. Gurren stuttered out with eyes wide from surprise, not having expected to see him so soon. I'm quite surprised. Naruto trailed off with amusement. A genin gets hit with an A-rank ninjutsu at point-blank range, right next to arguably the best medic in the elemental nations, and no one comes to his rescue. That is so sad. If I still had any tears left in my tear ducts, I might have been crying right now. Naruto said, shaking his head with his eyes closed in mock sadness. Naruto. Let me check you for any injuries, there might be internal damage. I'm perfectly fine, I don't need your help, Tsunade Dono. Naruto interrupted hastily. I've been hospitalized long enough and often enough for you and your medical staff to know about my regeneration abilities. Those abilities have only become more potent and the regeneration has become 20 times faster over the last 2 years. I'm getting better and better at it. The more experienced I get, the stronger I get, and the more mature my body becomes. In other words, synonymous growth side by side with my development as a shinobi. So, I don't need your services, nor will I ever need them again. Naruto said with clarity and finality. However, I might have been in trouble if I hadn't used a watered-down Shinra Tensei to deflect the impact of the jutsu. Speaking of which, that was quite a dangerous jutsu. A jutsu that shatters bones with the blunt force of air pressure and at the same time damages muscles and internal organs with Juken chakra. That's quite an amazing ninjutsu, as expected from the man hailed as the greatest genius from the Hyuga clan. Naruto thought with genuine appreciation, not in the slightest offended by the very recent assault on his person by his new teammate. In fact, he was more than a little happy about it, because it meant that Neji was just the person that he thought he was, just the person that he was looking for. So his ability has developed to this extent, just as Tsunade said it would based on her evaluations on his body in his earlier years. Dan thought to himself, the elders and Jiraiya also thinking along the same lines. I see. Tsunade trailed off thoughtfully. I knew this would happen, I just never thought that it would happen this fast. It should have only reached this stage in his late teenage years, or even in his early 20s. Tsunade thought. Still, rapid regeneration like that is unnatural. The human body is not supposed to operate like that. There is a limit to how many times human cells can replicate or copy themselves. If you continue to heal yourself at this rate, you'll risk damaging your body permanently in the future. In other words, I'm experienced with this kind of jutsu, so I know all the side effects of using such a potent ninjutsu. You'll shorten your lifespan if you continue to use that kind of jutsu. In fact, from now on, I'd suggest you treat that jutsu like it's a forbidden jutsu and only use it as a last resort. Tsunade suggested, even though it really sounded like an order more than anything else. Thank you for your advice, Tsunade Dono, but I'll be fine, I know what I'm doing. That was actually any order. Tsunade pointed out with a threatening undertone. I'm not one of your medical staff, nor am I your direct subordinate. I don't take orders from you. Naruto retorted, eyes narrowed at the blonde bombshell dangerously. You brat. Naruto. Dan cut in with a dangerous tone of his own, once again his words and his overbearing chakra sounding and feeling like a raging storm despite his soft-spoken and calm demeanor. Such was the kind of respect the man commanded as the Hokage, showing that he indeed was the most, or at least, one of the most powerful shinobi in the village. Yes, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked curiously, the red-haired Uzumaki seemingly unfazed by the Hokage's presence whatsoever. This is what's going to happen. You will follow Tsunade-chan's advice on this matter, and in fact, you will go for a checkup with her no later than noon tomorrow, where she will do a complete test and evaluation of your body and its healing abilities. Abilities like yours are rare even in the shinobi world. It needs to be studied and recorded so that, if possible, it can be replicated through medical ninjutsu for the greater good of the village. You just have to imagine how many lives could be saved in the future because of your body's unique abilities. Also, this will also help you in the long run. Our medical staff needs to be notified and trained specifically to deal with a body like yours should you find yourself in the treatment room at some point. Reason being that some medicines and specific dosages of said medicines might not work on you because of your body's rapid processing, assimilation, digestion, and recovery. We need to create a special treatment program just for you, and people like you that might join our shinobi forces in the future. So then, to simplify everything for you, you will listen to and strictly follow any instructions that Tsunade has for you regarding your condition. That's a direct order from the Hokage. Failure to comply will result in severe punishment. Are we clear on this matter? Dan asked with a dangerous tone of voice. Eyes narrowed at the red-haired Uzumaki, the Hokage seemingly pissed off at the red-haired Uzumaki's stubborn attitude, or maybe at the way the young Jinchuriki was addressing his wife. No, we are not clear at all. It seems like you don't really understand the situation here, and neither does your wife. Naruto said calmly. What's that supposed to mean exactly? Dan asked hastily, now suddenly feeling a dose of trepidation settling at the pit of his stomach. It's simple, under and according to my rights and privileges from the CBCE. You and your wife are prohibited from issuing such an order on me. That's all there is to it. Naruto clarified for the Hokage, shocking all the adults in the room and confusing his genin teammates. CBCE? What is that? Okawa-sama, Oto-sama? Gurren asked curiously. Clan Building and Creation Effect. It is a law that was instituted by Grand Uncle Tobirama during his reign as the Hokage. Tsunade replied absent-mindedly, eyes still wide from surprise and confusion. Surprise because this was the last thing she expected from the young Jinchuriki. Confusion because she didn't understand how exactly Naruto thought that he met the requirements of this act. Precisely. This is an act that Naidame-sama created in order to cultivate rare bloodlines and ensure that they never become extinct. It was also with the intention of creating diversified and powerful clans for the benefit of Konoha. According to this act, 2 or more people who have the same name, and also have ninjutsu or inherent abilities unique only to them, and if one of them is male and the other female, and are also married, or at least, have the intention to marry, said people qualify under the CBCE and therefore attain clan status with immediate effect. Naruto explained patiently, taking a small breath before continuing where he left off. Because of my clan status attained through the CBCE, certain rights and privileges automatically apply when dealing with me as the Hokage and as the chief executive of the medical corps. After all, no clan would have agreed to join the village if they were not guaranteed specific protection from the village itself, if they were not guaranteed the privacy and secrecy of their abilities. Naruto said with a small smile. That is quite interesting, Naruto-kun. It is impressive that you have such a refined knowledge of our laws and procedures. However, I'm curious. How is it exactly that you think you meet the requirements of this act? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with an old and weary voice, although, the wisdom and power behind it was very clear and unmistakable. After all, this was a former Hokage. I'm a shinobi now, and therefore have attained adult status. I have special bloodline abilities unique only to me, strong life force, strong and potent chakra, extremely high chakra reserves, unnaturally strong and durable body, rapid cell regeneration and rapid healing. Also, there is a girl who I intend to marry, and she to marry me, who has special abilities unique only to her. She has a skeletal frame made from a special dense alloy that is as strong as diamond. She can also turn her skin into this alloy, that we have named adamantine. However, it doesn't end there. She also has the ability to create, control, and manipulate electromagnetic fields and since last year, has adopted the name Uzumaki. I believe you all know her, Uzumaki Amy, academy dropout from 2 years ago. We live together now. I'm sure you already knew that though, didn't you, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked rhetorically. And no ways. Stop making up stupid stories, you baka. You expect us to believe that Amy has such incredible abilities. What nonsense. Gurren shouted uncharacteristically. Well, it's not a surprise that no one would believe me. After all, these are not abilities that she had before. She only has these abilities because of my experiments on her, and I only had the knowledge to do that thanks to my mother's side research that not even my father knew about. The red-haired Uzumaki thought with amusement. I'm afraid I'm going to have to agree with my daughter on this one. That is impossible. We have full medical records of every non-clan academy student in our archives. If there was ever a student with such an advanced skeletal frame, I would have known about it. Tsunade argued. That's right, if you expect us to believe you, then you will have to let Tsunade-chan do a full body evaluation of your girlfriend's body. Danzo slyly suggested. Not necessary, Naidame-sama made provision for that in the CBCE. To protect the secrets of the clan, all that is required is a demonstration of the abilities, no medical evaluations necessary. A demonstration will not be a problem. Amy-chan is more than willing to show you what she can do. Naruto argued in return. Nice try, old man, but there's nothing you can do to outwit me on this one. Naruto thought with confidence and satisfaction. He's really thought this through, hasn't he? However, there's still one flaw in his plan. Jiraiya thought to himself. It's a good plan that you have conjured up there, Naruto. As your sensei, I'm already proud of you. However, you are still 100 years too young to outwit us like that. There are 4 levels of medical proficiency: the beginner, the semi-pro, the professional, and the master. And, according to clan law, which you now fall under, a whole 15% of your members must obtain and possess professional level medical license minimum. If not, then the right to medical privacy and secrecy is automatically waived away, meaning that you can no longer refuse medical evaluation, study, and treatment from the village. Currently, there is no one in your clan with that kind of license, therefore, what? Jiraiya trailed off with wide eyes, unable to quite believe what he was seeing with his own eyes. Does this master-level certificate satisfy the medical qualification requirement, Jiraiya-sensei? Naruto asked neutrally, even though the mirth in his tone was still audible if one listened carefully. And no ways. That has to be forgery. There's no way such a license could have been issued without my notification. The record should have passed through my desk. Tsunade argued vehemently. I took the test 2 days ago. It usually takes 2 days to get the results and the license, meaning, the record should have been at your desk first thing in the morning and you would have seen them, unless of course, you didn't turn in for work today because of, say, your daughter's graduation ceremony. Naruto said, this time unable to suppress a grin from sneaking its way onto his facial features. It's become quiet in here all of a sudden. Is everything okay, Hokage-sama? Naruto asked with mock concern. Everything is fine. I will fill out the necessary documents to make official your clan status after Ami's demonstration, which will be scheduled tomorrow at noon. And yes, you will no longer be required to check in with Tsunade-chan at that time. I will also make preparations for your seating position in the council room, and I will make sure that you receive notice for every council meeting. I will also allocate a sufficient piece of land and funds for you to build your clan compound. Is there anything else that you will need? Dan asked with a neutral expression, trying his best to contain his frustration, confusion, and anger from showing on his facial expression. Dan, you can't be serious. You're not really gonna fall for this shit, are you? Tsunade exclaimed furiously, finally able to regain her speaking ability, which she had temporarily lost due to shock. I don't have a choice, Tsunade. Naruto is a shinobi and a clan head right now. I had to give him the necessary respect. It's the irrefutable law. Dan replied passively. Hokage-sama is right, and there's nothing you or anyone can do about it. Naruto said nonchalantly, causing Tsunade to grit her teeth in frustration and anger. How did you manage to pass a master-level medical exam? And how is it that you know so much about clan law? There's no way that you found out all of this on your own, someone's helping you? Who is it? Jiraiya demanded. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about. Give it a break. No one's going to fall for that shit. I want answers, now. Jiraiya exclaimed impatiently. Let me rephrase my previous statement then, I'm afraid I don't owe you any explanations. I'm not going to share any clan secrets with you or anyone, I'm not obliged to either. Naruto replied with a devious grin, causing Jiraiya to grit his teeth irritably. Anyway, that will be all for now. We're having a special dinner tonight to celebrate Guren's graduation. You're all invited, especially you, Team 11. It will be a good chance for you to build a team bond and get to know each other a little better. Dan subtly ordered. Me and my team will be there, right, Neji, Naruto? Jiraiya said with a serious and somewhat dangerous tone. I'm not busy tonight, so I should be available. Neji replied neutrally. Is it okay if I bring my fiancé? Naruto asked, causing Guren's right eyebrow to twitch involuntarily. So this is why Naruto-kun halted his pursuit of my affections? He's getting married to that unruly child, Amy. Uzumaki Amy? Guren thought to herself. I've got feelings for Itachi-kun. I love him. Yet, why do I feel so jealous of Naruto-kun and Amy? Why does it hurt that they're together? Why does it piss me off so much? Is it because I'm so used to him pining for my affections, making a fool of himself just to get my attention? Is it because I have feelings for him too that I didn't know about until now? Or am I just selfish and egotistical? I need to talk to Okawa-sama. Guren thought to herself, a bundle of conflicting emotions jamming up in her mind and her heart as a result. Naruto, perhaps I have misjudged you after all. But how is it possible that my all-seeing eyes saw so much and yet missed so much at the same time? You've definitely caught my attention now, I won't miss anything else again. Neji thought as he made direct eye contact with the spiky-haired Uzumaki. He. So I've caught your attention now, haven't I, Hyuga Neji? Well, I'm going to need a 4-man cell in order to successfully escape Konoha and continue to evade the high pursuit that is sure to take place following my escape. A very powerful 4-man cell at that. I can think of no one better than you, a once-in-a-lifetime genius from the great Hyuga clan who knows pain and suffering, and carries a strong resentment for his clan, possibly for the village as well. If that doesn't sound like a motive to defect, I don't know what is. All I have to do now is to win your loyalty. I've got your attention and respect now, and I'll win your loyalty when I free you from your cage. Naruto thought with a devious mental smile. Yes please, I'd very much like to meet your fiancé Naruto-kun. Maybe we can get that demonstration out of way tonight too. Dan replied with a small fake smile. I can't believe what just happened. I have to find out how Naruto could possibly have advanced so much in such a short amount of time. Who's his sponsor? Who's his advisor? Who's his mentor? Or, who is using him? Dan thought furiously. So, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is not a talentless idiot after all. I guess this should not be so much of surprise, after all, he is Minato's and Kushina's son. Still, I'll have to keep an eye on him. Actually, in light of recent events, perhaps it would be prudent of me to have a little word with him. We could use someone like him in the Foundation. Danzo thought with a small, hidden grin. I can't believe Naruto-kun has transformed so much in just 2 years. Something extreme. Something serious must have happened. I'll have to speak to Dan-kun about this. And I'll have to speak to you too, Danzo. Here is in thought, not for second ruling out the possibility of the old Warhawk having something to do with the resident Jinchuriki's transformation. Meanwhile, Omegakure no Sato. It's been a long time, Fuka, Tayuya, Hinoka, Karen. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, Team Uzumaki. Yahiko, founder and leader of the Black Rain organization that ended Hanzo's reign, greeted with a big, almost happy-go-lucky, grin. He is a rather tall man with spiky orange hair and big brown eyes, wearing black shinobi pants with white leg warmers and a long, high-collared black cloak with big, black teardrop designs on it. The black raindrops symbolizing the dark era that AIM was in when the organization was formed. One other defining feature on his face is the piercings below his lips, Diva Path's piercing in canon. Yahiko was sitting on a throne seat with his best friend and wife, also his partners in their ring-like leadership of Megakure no Sato, Nagato and Konan. Nagato is a man just above average in height with ruby red hair, pale skin, and metallic purple eyes with concentric rings around the pupil. The eyes of the Sage of the Six Paths, also known as the Rinnegan. He, much like Yahiko, is wearing black shinobi pants with white leg warmers and dark blue shinobi sandals, along with the turtle-necked, long, blue cloak with black teardrop designs on it. Konan on the other hand is a very beautiful woman with blue hair, orange eyes, soft creamy skin, and a labrae piercing, wearing the same uniform as her husband and best friend, except with black pants that extend into black boots on her feet. Uzumaki Fuka, along with my team, Team Uzumaki, consisting of Uzumaki Tayuya, Uzumaki Karen, and Uzumaki Hinoka. At your service, Leader Sama. Fuka greeted with one knee on the floor and her head bowed down respectfully, along with her team of redhead Uzumakis. She is a beautiful, voluptuous woman who appears to be in her late teens, with long, beautiful red hair, blue eyes, and a heart-shaped face, wearing also the standard black rain uniform with tight-fitting black pants and white bandages wrapped around the ankles. At ease, my dear comrades. You may rise to your feet so that we may have a normal conversation, from one human to other humans. Yahiko said with a friendly aura. Hi, Leader Sama. The four Uzumaki girls saluted as they rose to their feet to confront their village leader, Yahiko, their clan head, Nagato, and the Lady Angel of Aim, Konan. Fuka had to give to them, these three were absolutely amazing shinobi and even better leaders. She could not have wished for anyone else to follow, in fact, she could definitely never respect anyone more than she respected these three. After all, Fuka was a powerful shinobi herself in her own right, or anyone's right for that matter. Between her ability to manipulate all 5 nature elements, her kiss of death technique, her immortality jutsu, and her Uzumaki-level chakra reserves, she could say that she was village leader material herself in terms of power, so it said a lot about these three that she was prepared to bow down to them and show them respect without any reservations. Still, she had to say that, for a village leader, Yahiko had it very easy, and that was mainly, or in fact solely because he didn't have to do any paperwork whatsoever. Nagato's Diva path did all of that for him, and Diva was none other than Hanzo of the Salamander himself. Yes, Nagato, Yahiko, and Konan had indeed killed Hanzo, and the sad thing, or good thing, depending on who you were and your views on the situation, was that almost no one in the village knew that Hanzo had died a long time ago. Almost no one knew that Hanzo was just part of the 6 paths of pain jutsu, that he was nothing but a walking and moving corpse. They all thought that Hanzo was still village leader, and that Hanzo had reconciled with the Black Rain organization and formed a peace treaty for the sake of the village. Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan were respected as higher-ups and protectors of the village, as potential successors to Hanzo's throne, and the work that they had done for the village, under Hanzo's orders, was well received and appreciated. Quite amazing what a simple black metallic rod through the chest of a corpse can do for you. She had to give to him. Nagato's outer path abilities were really something else. In any case, for those who knew the truth, they were required to report to this secret throne room to meet with the real leaders of the organization and take direct orders from them. For those who didn't know the truth, they had to take orders from Nagato's Diva path. Of course, no one was stupid enough not to question the Rinnegan on Hanzo's eyes, but there were 4 Uzumakis in the village. Really, that situation was nothing that couldn't be fixed with a simple sealing jutsu on Hanzo's oxygen mask. It was kind of like those interrogation room mirrors. The person inside the interrogation room only sees his or her reflection on the glass window, but the person on the other side can see through to the other side of the glass. Therefore, to Diva, the shield on the mask serves as a window of sorts, but to outsider looking in, all they can see is their reflection on the oxygen mask. So anyway, why the fuck did you call us here all of a sudden, leader? I was just about to kick Hinoka Tami's ass in training, ya know. Tayuya asked with her usual foul-mouthed, arrogant attitude. She is a tomboyish 12-year-old redhead girl with big brown eyes and long ruby red hair, also wearing the standard, female version of the Kuro AIM uniform. How many times do you have to be told to watch your mouth in front of Leader Sama, you foul-mouthed ass-sucking bitch? Karen exclaimed indignantly, completely oblivious to the hypocrisy of her words and actions at that very moment. She too, like all Uzumakis, has beautiful long red hair with eyes matching her hair in terms of color, also wearing the female version of the standard Kuro AIM uniform. Hinoka, like she so often does, simply chose not to get herself involved in her two siblings' stupidity, lest it also rub off on her too. As expected, she too has beautiful red hair, with dark eyes and the standard Kuro AIM uniform with an AIM forehead protector around her head just like her two sisters. Ah, come on Karen, stop acting like leader's slut, can't you see how useless your hopeless crush on him is? He's taken dummy, find someone else. Tayuya said with a sadistic smirk. Why you? That's enough you too. End it now, or else. Fuka warned with a dangerous and pissed off tone. Ma, you don't have to put on such a scary face, Fuka-chan, I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it. They were just joking around, right, Tayuya-chan, Karen-chan? Yahiko said with a nervy smile, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Hi, Leader Sama. We were just playing around. Totally didn't mean anything by it. Tayuya and Karen both exclaimed hastily, secretly thanking Leader from saving them from Fuka's wrath. He. See, everything's cool right? Yahiko asked nervously. Leader can be such a goofball at times. Fuka thought with a heavy sigh. Alright, I'll let them off the hook this time. Anyway, for you to have requested a meeting directly with you, I'm guessing you must have something of great importance that you want to say to us. Fuka trailed off suggestively. As a matter of fact, yes, there is something of great importance that we want to ask of you and your team. A very important mission. One we think you might have quite a vested interest and enthusiasm in completing. Yahiko stated, now adopting an all-business tone and expression. A vested interest and enthusiasm? It sounds like you're preparing to hand down a mission that you believe will be more than a mission to us. Something personal to us? Fuka said with a questioning tone. Precisely, it is a mission personal to us, as in, the Uzumaki clan. Nagato, the Uzumaki clan head, husband, and father to triplets of girls, cut in smoothly, speaking for the first time since the mission begun. Bang! Oto-sama. A 12-year-old boy with pale skin, blue hair framing the sides of his face, and red glowing eyes, also wearing the standard Kuro AIM uniform and an AIM forehead protector around the head, exclaimed as he busted through the door, running with impressive speed before throwing himself into his father's arms, followed by two other kids into the throne room. Jugo, a big and muscular 14-year-old boy with orange spiky hair and orange eyes, also wearing the standard Kuro AIM uniform, along with Isaribi, who was also Hanzo's 12-year-old granddaughter, also wearing the female version of the Kuro AIM uniform. Ha, Rinmara, how's it going buddy? Yahiko asked jovially, clearly just as happy to see his son as much as his son was to see him. I'm alright dad, sorry for being late for the meeting, training took a little longer than expected. Rinmara replied with a sheepish grin. Ah well, I guess I can forgive you this time, but make sure it doesn't become a regular occurrence, okay? Of course, it won't happen again, I promise dad. Rinmara replied, having at least the decency to spot an embarrassed blush on his pale skin. Ahem, if I may. Nagato trailed irritably, not appreciating it one bit that he was interrupted during such an important conversation. After all, these people, as much as he loved them, seemed to have very little respect for the god of peace. Ha, sorry Nagato. Rinmara, hurry up and join your teammates. Nagato has something very important to share with you all. Yahiko whispered harshly. Oh okay. Rinmara, sensing the seriousness of the situation, replied as he hurried to his place between his teammates. Those two have such a good relationship. I'm truly blessed to have a husband and son like those two. Conan thought with a nostalgic expression. Ka-chan, are you okay? Rinmara whispered with his hand on his mouth, almost as if expecting no one else to see or hear that he was talking to his mother, once again interrupting Nagato's conversation. I'm okay baby, just listen to what Nagato has to say for now, we'll talk afterwards okay? Conan said with a loving, motherly smile. Okay, Rinmara exclaimed with a cheeky grin. Now then, since all of you are here, allow me to brief you on your long-term mission. Nagato trailed off with a serious tone. Long-term mission? What kind of mission would require the collaboration of two Kuro AIM genin teams? Fuka asked with a small frown on her goddess-like facial features, a small shiver of fear and trepidation settling at the pit of her stomach. She was concerned that the mission they were about to be given was a very dangerous, possibly an S-ranked mission. If it was a mission just for her, she wouldn't be as worried as she was right now. In fact, she wouldn't be worried at all. She was that confident in her own abilities. The problem was when the mission involved her 3 daughters. However, she knew just how much Nagato loved their 3 daughters, and just how protective he was of them. He wouldn't give them such a dangerous mission if he didn't believe that they can handle it. One of, as I was saying before the interruption, of utmost importance, especially to us, the Uzumaki clan. Nagato replied, causing surprised expressions to appear on the faces of the 2 genin teams. I see. Please continue, Nagato-koi. Fuka prompted somewhat impatiently, causing Nagato to pull out an A3 photograph and dangle it in front of his body for all of his audience to view. Who the fuck is that? And why the fuck does he have whisker marks on his face? Is he some kind of psycho? Tayuya asked. No, he's not a psycho, at least, I don't think so. This guy is Konoha's Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto. Nagato said loud and clearly, making sure that everybody in the room had absolutely no doubts as to the words that were coming out of his mouth. What? Bibit Oto-sama, I thought you said that you and Okawa-sama were the last of the clan before we were born? Hinoka asked with a betrayed expression. I know what I said, but listen to what I am saying now. My reasons for not telling you about him until now will be explained to you at another time. But to summarize it, I didn't want you trying to run after him all on your own. I wanted to make sure that you were old enough, smart enough, experienced enough, and strong enough to bring him back to us, where he belongs. Nagato explained. How is he related to us exactly, and where are his parents? He doesn't look a day older than us. Karen asked. My grandmother is his great-grandmother, who gave birth to twins. Those twins are his grandmother and my mother. Those twins in turn each gave birth to 1 child. His mother and I. His mother was my first cousin, Uzumaki Kushina, who is also the former Kyuubi Jinchuriki. She then married the Yellow Flash and they gave birth to Naruto, as I and Fuka gave birth to you 3. Therefore, he is my nephew, and your cousin. This boy is very important to me, to us, and his potential, as Kushina's son, as Namikaze Minato's son, as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, is almost limitless. Nagato trailed off, stopping briefly to gather his thoughts before carrying on from where he left off. Naruto has grown up with no father and no mother. Both his parents died during the Kyuubi rampage 12 years ago. He doesn't even know that an Uzumaki clan exists, or ever existed for that matter. He doesn't know who his parents are. He doesn't even know if they ever loved him or not. He is all alone in this world, and a fan who practically raised himself, facing scorn and hatred from his own village because of something beyond his control, because of the monster sealed inside of him. This boy has been facing this kind of hardship all on his own. You all know how I, Conan, and Yahiko grew up, but it was a little better for us because at least we still had each other, and at least we experienced the warmth and love of a mother and father, even if it was only for a short time. This boy, he has been alone from the start. Nagato explained, stopping once again, this time to regain his breath, watching silently as tears began to fall from all 3 of his daughter's eyes, even to Yuya. Your mission will begin in 6 months' time during the Chunin exams that will take place in Konoha. Team Uzumaki and Team Konan will take part in these exams. Fuka and Konan will accompany you to Konoha. Team Uzumaki, you will reveal yourselves to Uzumaki Naruto and you will get him to defect to a Megacure. You may use force only as a last resort, although, I doubt that it will be necessary. The chance to reunite with his loving family and to learn about his long-lost clan should prove too much for him to resist. Also, your other mission is to win the Chunin exams. It is about time we showed the other elemental nations who we are exactly. They must know that we are not a village to be trampled with. Nagato said with pride and conviction. Team Uzumaki, do you accept this mission? Nagato asked with a militant tone. Hi, Pain-sama. Team Uzumaki exclaimed with pride, conviction, and determination, chests pushed out and backs straight in a proud military stance. That is very good, I'm glad to hear that. Now, as for Team Konan, you will also be required to win the Chunin exams. It doesn't matter whether a member from Team Uzumaki or Team Konan wins the tournament, as long as you win. However, you too will have a special mission. Yeah, I was starting to get worried there for a second, Pain-sama. Rinmara exclaimed with a fist pump. Ahem, as I was saying. You will have a special mission, one that will require all 3 of your abilities. As you all know, our geographical position in the world map is very unfavorable. We are surrounded by three of the big five: Iwa, Suna, and Konoha. Whenever these nations go to war, they inevitably use our nation as the battleground, destroying everything in their path. My mission is to ensure that this never comes to pass, to hold them all off and stop all three of them from breaching our borders. How do you plan to do this exactly? And how does this directly relate to our mission? Rinmara asked anxiously. I was getting to that. Nagato said tensely, slightly losing his cool at Yahiko's brat's constant interruptions, causing Rinmara to release an audible gulp, pretty sure that he did not want to be at the receiving end of the god of Aim's wrath. Now, I have decided to take a note from Furito's reincarnation technique in order to improve the 6 paths of pain technique, the one that he uses to revive and control the dead corpses of the 12 ninja guardians. Basically, instead of using random corpses of the deceased, I want my own set of powerful shinobi for the 6 paths. You just have to look at how powerful Diva is to make sense of what I'm saying to you. Hanzo's powers, along with my gravity manipulation, together, constitutes a single path that, alone, can fight on the level of a high cage. If I can get shinobi of similar caliber for my other paths, we'd be able to have a minimum of 3 cage-level shinobi on each front. We'd be able to stop all 3 nations from breaching our border, maybe even launch a counterattack of our own on each one of them. Nagato explained. That sounds like a brilliant idea, Koi, but I still don't understand how this relates to Team Conan exactly. Fuka said with a confused expression. It's simple, people have this silly tendency of preserving the bodies of their great legends in special cemeteries that are guarded 24/7. What I want from you, Team Conan, is for you to steal Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Kushina, Senju Tobarama, Senju Hashirama, and the third Reikage, Yatsuki Raiden. The third Reikage, you can steal at any time as long as it is before the Chunin exams, and the others you will obviously steal when you go to Konoha for the Chunin exams. You must do this without getting caught, in other words, no one must even know that the corpses have been stolen. Nagato said with a deadly tone. Now, Team Conan, do you accept? Matt. Conan cut in smoothly. What is it, Conan? Nagato asked harshly. Before you say anything else, I think you should know that we won't find Namikaze Minato, Senju Tobarama and Senju Hashirama in Konoha. Apparently, Orochimaru has already beaten us to those 3. He plans to reanimate them through Edo Tensei for his planned assault on Konoha during the Chunin exams. That's the information I received from my spy contacts in Otogakure 2 days ago. Conan said with her usual emotionless tone, the one she used during serious shinobi business or in battle. And when were you planning to share this information with us, Conan? Nagato asked irritably. I'm sharing it with you now, aren't I? Besides, I wanted to go there myself and confirm the information first before reporting back to you and Yahiko-kun. Even now, the information is still unconfirmed. Conan replied. In that case, rather than simply confirming this information, you will take it a step further and steal the corpses from Orochimaru. You are one of the best spies in the world, this shouldn't be too hard for you. Nagato ordered. I was already planning to do that. Besides, Orochimaru already has what he needs from those corpses. After all, he doesn't need the whole body for the Edo Tensei. A piece of hair would probably be more than enough. Conan replied nonchalantly. I'm sorry, but are we simply going to let Orochimaru resurrect 3 of the strongest shinobi of all time? Really? We're just going to allow Orochimaru to have access to that kind of power? Fuka asked incredulously. If his intention is to destroy Konoha, then yes, that is exactly what we will allow him to do. If you're worried about him ever using that jutsu on Aim, don't be. If the Edo Tensei has a weakness, then that weakness is definitely me. A god who has the power to remove souls and help them pass on to the other side. Moreover, Orochimaru won't be able to resurrect Minato, he is trapped inside the Shinigami's stomach. So you see, you have nothing to worry about. Nagato explained, much to Fuka's relief and everyone else's relief. I see, was all Fuka said in response. So then, Team Conan will infiltrate Orochimaru's circle and steal 3 corpses, Minato, Hashirama, and Tobarama. Following that, they will go to Kumo and steal the third Reikage, and Uzumaki Kushina will be stolen during the chaos of Orochimaru's attack on Konoha. Sounds like a good plan, however, I'm curious, how do you plan to convince Naruto to let you use his parents like that? Yahiko asked the question that was on everyone's mind. It's quite simple actually. Naruto will let me use his parents with the promise that I will make to him. The promise to resurrect them for real if he can find suitable replacements for the paths. This promise will also give him motivation to become strong, because he will need to be if he is going to kill the people that can substitute for his parents. Nagato said with a confident grin. Is that such a good idea, Nagato? Minato was a great hero of Konoha who was respected and loved by everyone in Konoha. He was also said to be in contention to be the 5th Hokage after the 4th's reign. Resurrecting him could cause problems for us. Also, I thought that Rinne Tensei posed a very serious risk to your life? Yahiko asked with concern. Don't worry about that. I plan to use the Kyuubi's life force for the Rinne Tensei. And, now that you mentioned it, perhaps I should promise only to resurrect his mother. However, if Orochimaru succeeds in destroying Konoha, then I will resurrect Minato too. He'll have no choice but to be on our side if that were to happen. Nagato reasoned out loud. Okay, that's fair enough. However, I do have one more question. Speak, Nagato said gruffly. Well, I'm just curious, which corpse do you plan to assign to which paths, and why? Yahiko asked with curiosity and excitement dancing in his eyes. I knew you'd ask that question, it was inevitable. You're so easily excitable. Nagato said with a cheeky grin. Ha ha ha, well, you know me too well. So, are you going to tell me or not? Yahiko asked rhetorically, scratching the back of his head with a sheepish smile on his facial features. Yatsuki Raiden will be the Preta path. This is because he has outstanding speed and durability, and his taijutsu is one of the best, if not the best. As you know, Preta is immune to all ninjutsu, but his weakness is taijutsu and physical attacks. With the Raikage, those weaknesses will be accounted for, they won't be a problem. Preta path is currently capable of fighting at the level of an elite Jonin, however, with Yatsuki Raiden as Preta, he will fight at the level of the highest Kage, on his own. Nagato explained patiently, causing everyone's jaw to figuratively hit the ground, eyes wide with awe and amazement. Uzumaki Kushina will be the Naraka path. Naraka is the weakest out of all of them in combat. In fact, currently, his only purpose is to resurrect the others. He is vulnerable and easy to kill. If an enemy were to know his ability beforehand, his chances would improve by at least 30%. That's why Kushina is perfect, because of her chakra chain barrier. Naraka will remain secure and unreachable. She can also help out offensively with her chakra chains from the safety of her barrier. This means that I can always resurrect a fallen path until I either run out of chakra, which is unlikely, or until I defeat all of my enemies. Nagato said, taking a deep breath before carrying on from where he left off. Namikaze Minato will be the human path. This one should be obvious. Human path is the one that faces the most risk because he has to constantly get himself within touching distance of the opponent in order to be effective. With Minato's speed, reflexes, agility, and the flying Raijin technique, soul removal will become a piece of cake, and the risk will diminish by a whole 85%. This will be my greatest close combat asset. Demon Realm will be Tobirama and Animal will be Hashirama. There is no reason in particular for these two other than the fact that I wanted to use their power. That's all there is to it. Diva, Preta, Human, Naraka, Demon, Animal. Hanzo of the Salamander, Yatsuki Raiden, Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Kushina, Senju Tobirama, Senju Hashirama. These will be the new 6 paths of pain, the power of a true god, the god of aim. Akatsuki Base in the west. Good afternoon, my dear comrades. One Uchiha Madara grated from the seat of his throne, the legendary shinobi sitting casually with his head laid in his right hand as he stared down at his disciples with his more than intimidating, sinister-looking Mangekyo Sharingan, which seemed to be almost permanently activated, secretly to counter against one of his own subordinates, Uchiha Shisui. He, like all of his comrades, spots a black, long, turtle-necked cloak with red cloud designs on it, with blue shinobi pants, white leg warmers, and dark blue shinobi sandals. Place across his lap one would find a battle arrangement fan, not the most popular weapon by any means in the shinobi world. In fact, most wouldn't even consider it to be a weapon in the first place. Standing on Madara's right-hand side, right next to his throne seat, was Zetsu, a man with 2 halves, one black and the other white. with green hair and a Venus flytrap emerging from his body and protruding over and around his head, and on his left-hand side stood Toby, a man with short spiky hair and an orange mask with a spiral-like design covering his face, the mask only spotting one eye hole on the right side of his face, said eye also spotting only an activated 3 Tomoe Sharingan. Standing at the bottom of the 7 steps leading to Madara's throne, stood, from left to right, Deidara, Sasori, Uchiha Shisui, Hoshigaki Kisame, Kakuzu, Hidan, a short, boyish-looking, white-haired man called Hiriko, and his partner, Shinu, a deceptively young-looking, muscular man with dark eyes and black hair along with a rugged facial features and a black beard. Shinu also just so happens to be the host of an entity known as the Ribi thanks to a ritual performed on him by the former Sky Village. Fuck you, Teme. I'm not greeting you until you tell me exactly how it is that you still look so young despite your ancient age. You secretive bastard, Hidan shouted out, pointing his scythe murderously at the head of the Akatsuki organization. And who the fuck is that masked guy and why does he have a Sharingan? Kakuzu and I looked into the Uchiha clan and we know that there has never been a Toby in the Uchiha clan. Is he an Uchiha or not, and if not, where the fuck did he get a Sharingan from? Hidan demanded with frustration and anger. Hidan, you fool, I thought I told you not to tell anyone about that, and you go and tell leader of all people. Kakuzu growled out angrily. It's okay, Kakuzu, I understand, information is one of the most valuable assets for a shinobi, and a good shinobi never leaves any stone unturned. I'm not disappointed or angry at you, I'm satisfied, impressed even. Madara replied with a small smile. Well, I'm not impressed, I want answers, now. Hidan demanded. That Hidan, he's quite an idiot, but he's quite useful for situations like these. He always asks the questions that everybody wants to ask but are too scared or too smart to ask. Shinu thought amusedly. Fine, I will give you the answers to your questions. As far as Toby is concerned, he is someone who carries with him all of my desires and my will. He is one of the 2 people closest to me, one of the people I trust the most, the other being Zetsu. Basically, he is someone I raised from a boy into a man. He is my son, the same blood and power of the Uchiha runs deep in and through our veins. Madara said, much to the surprise of everyone in the room, Shisui more so than anyone else. Of course, Toby, or rather, Uchiha Obito wasn't his son, but he might as well have been. Madara took him and raised him like his own, taught him everything that he knows, gave him knowledge, taught him how to fight, how to live, and even gave him a purpose in life. And if that wasn't enough, Madara and Obito really did have the same blood running through their veins, they were family after all. Both of the Uchiha family, Obito even carried a piece of Madara with him at all times. The eye hidden behind the mask originally belonging to Madara himself before he traded his for Izuna's eyes, the eye he was using to block against Shishui's genjutsu. So in essence, Madara was lying and telling the truth at the same time, and everybody fell for his little white lie quite easily. After all, it did make perfect sense. Why have I managed to retain my youthful body despite my ancient age? Well, that is thanks to an external life force that I have access to and a special jutsu of my own creation. Using this external life force to lengthen my own and the physical energy to replenish and strengthen my own body. That's all there is to it. Madara explained vaguely. You have access to some of the sage's weapons, the gunbai on your lap and the Gedo statue being one of them. Our plan is to seal the Biju into the Gedo statue to recreate the 10 tails, and then split that power up evenly between the members of the organization, followed by a takeover of the world. But if the Gedo Mazo is capable of containing such a vast amount of energy, then it must have a vast amount of energy itself, otherwise it couldn't possibly contain such a high amount of life force inside of it. Also, the sage might have even left some of his own life force and some of the Jubi's life force inside of the statue. And you're using that life force to keep yourself alive and young, am I right? Hiriko asked curiously. As expected of you, Hiriko, you never cease to amaze me. How Konoha failed to see what a genius you are baffles me even to this day. I'm glad to have you by my side, it would have been troublesome if you had been with the other side. Madara said with a hint of pride and admiration. Flattery will get you nowhere, leader. Don't forget out deal. A Sharingan and a portion of the Jubi in exchange for my help. Hiriko replied with a sinister smirk, trying to hide the happiness and pride he was feeling inside from gaining acknowledgement and praise from the great Uchiha Madara himself, having failed to get it from the Sannin and the Hokage in the past. He. You never lose sight of your priorities, do you? That's good though, it makes you someone that I can rely on. And yes, I haven't forgotten our deal, I'm a man of my word, always. Help me capture and seal all of the Biju into the demonic statue of the sage, and I will honor my side of the deal. Madara replied, as amusing as it is watching you and Hiriko flirt, don't you think it's just about time you got to the point of this meeting, Leader-sama? Kisame asked with a toothy grin. He. That was a good one, but anyway you're right, it's about time we got started. Today's topic concerns one of our former members, Orochimaru. Madara said, causing more than one of the Akatsuki members to snarl in distaste. What the fuck has that nasty prick done now, HN? Deidara asked with anger and impatience. Zetsu has spent some time gathering information on Orochimaru. Apparently, Orochimaru has founded a ninja village in the Sound Nation, formerly known as the Land of the Rice Paddies. But that's not the main issue. The main issue is that he is planning to attack Konohagakure no Sato in 6 months' time during the Chunin exams that will be hosted by said ninja village. That, however, is also not the issue of concern. Orochimaru and the Sound Village are unlikely to defeat Konoha and the Hokage. However, even if they do, Orochimaru's forces will be depleted and he will have tired himself out during the battle. If he loses, he will be fleeing back to the Sound Nation, and I want one of our teams to pick him up and finish him off. Even if he wins, I still want him dead, and the Kyuubi Jinchuriki captured. We don't want the Kyuubi to fall into Orochimaru's hands. Madara explained. He. So Orochimaru gets to die soon, huh? I've been waiting for this order for a long time now. I'll take care of this if you don't mind, leader. Sasori said with a sinister undertone. We'll take care of that bastard Orochimaru and his weakling ninja village, HN. Deidara said with an approving nod, accompanied by a sadistic smirk. Nonsense. Orochimaru is mine, and mine alone. I'm the one that deserves to kill him the most. Hiriko argued. He has a very big bounty on his head, and I'm sure he would be a worthy sacrifice for Hidan's ritual. We should be allowed to handle this mission. Kakuzu cut in with his own piece of greed. Wow Kakuzu, I'm touched that even greedy motherfucker like you is starting to warm up to Jashin-sama. Hidan said with a mocking but happy smile. Don't push your luck, Hidan. Kakuzu growled out irritably. I think you should make a decision, leader. No one is going to submit if we allow them to decide on their own. Toby said with a deep and sinister-sounding voice. You're right, Hiriko, Sasori. I know that the two of you have a vested interest in Orochimaru's demise. Therefore, I will send the two of you after Orochimaru and his elite guard. And then I will allow Deidara and Shinu to destroy the rest of Otogakure no Sato. Hiriko, you may take samples of Orochimaru's DNA for your experiments, and Sasori, you may add him to your collection of puppets. After all, that is what you ultimately want to do, isn't it? Madara asked rhetorically. So be it, we'll take care of that leech for you, Leader-sama. Sasori replied with a grateful and respectful tone. You won't regret this, leader. Hiriko said. Kakuzu, Hidan, forgive me. I know how important your job is as our treasurer, and I know how you value your religion, Hidan. However, both Sasori and Hiriko have been scorned and humiliated by this guy in the past. They deserve a chance to redeem themselves. I promise to allow you to take lead next time there is a bounty as big as this one. Madara apologized sincerely. Fuck, Hidan cursed in frustration. Fine. Kakuzu replied simply, even though he was just as angry and frustrated as Hidan was. Good, our next meeting like this will be scheduled in 7 months' time. Until then, I will communicate with you through Zetsu and Toby. If you have any questions or anything at all that you want to talk to me about in person, let Zetsu and Toby know and I will make arrangements for us to meet in person. Good day, my dear comrades, my friends. It's been 6 months now since graduation, and a lot has happened since then. Probably, the worst thing that has happened to me is Jiraiya's constant nagging about me signing the Toad contract, and the Hokage constantly forcing me to regularly join him and his family for dinner. I can't count the number of times I've been asked about my goals and ambitions for the future. It seems that my response that I want to become the strongest shinobi in the world is not sufficient. Like they're hoping I'll tell them I want to be the greatest Hokage like I used to as a kid. If there's one thing that Jiraiya taught me that was of use, then it certainly was the Rasengan. Of course, I already knew how to perform Rasengan. I mastered it a long time ago at my parents' compound. But I couldn't very well just whoop out a Rasengan without expecting a trip to Morino Ibiki for interrogation. So one can imagine the smile on my face when Jiraiya so kindly offered to teach me the Rasengan, although admittedly, I was quite miffed by the fact that Dad had taught the jutsu to an outsider. Now I have to find a way to kill him before I leave Konoha, not an easy task at all. On a positive side though, Neji and I have bonded well over the last 6 months. We have actually become best friends. I've also introduced him to Amy, and they get along well too. The three of us have been training really hard and we've worked on our teamwork too. I haven't been able to find a fourth member for our group, and that really bothered me for a long time, that was, until yesterday morning, when I met the family that I never knew of. Yes, the Chunin exams commenced yesterday afternoon, but in the morning, I encountered 4 red-haired women, of which one was their sensei. Their names, Uzumaki Fuka, Uzumaki Tayuya, Uzumaki Hinoka, and Uzumaki Karen. I can't even begin to explain the joy and fulfillment that I felt following the conversation that we had. Apparently, they had entered the exams using only their first names, because otherwise the name Uzumaki would have alerted Konoha and made it almost impossible for them to have a private conversation with me. We talked about a lot of things, the history of our clan, who they were, and where they came from, their intentions with me. And I even got to see a picture of our clan head, Uzumaki Nagato. I still can't believe he has awakened the mythical Rinnegan. In any case, things have become a lot more easier for me, rather than to live a life contently on the run like I planned to do. Now I have a welcoming and loving home waiting for me, Neji, and Amy-chan, and I no longer need to worry too much about that fourth teammate, although it would still be nice if I can get one. Nagato-sama's proposal regarding my parents' corpses was a bit of hiccup, but I thought about it and I realized that it was actually a very generous offer. All I had to do was to find suitable replacements for them and everything would be fine, better actually, considering that he was going to resurrect them for real. I was a bit skeptical about that at first, but then I thought, if the Nidaime Hokage could resurrect the dead with the reanimation technique, then, how much more a Rinnegan wielder? Surely it shouldn't be a surprise that he too can resurrect the dead, although we'll have to find a way to free my dad from the Shinigami's stomach if possible. I've been warned that there are also another 2 AIM teams participating in the exams, one of which is Konan-sama's team, the Omegacure leader's wife. It was also said that I should avoid battle against them in the forest, and I've been briefed on their appearance and abilities, although I guess their forehead protectors should be a dead giveaway. Anyway, right now, I'm in the Forest of Death with my teammates Neji and Gurren. And right now, we're hiding behind the bushes. We just stumbled on a battle between Uchiha Sasuke, Kurama Yakumo, and Uchiha Itachi against Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sannin. Don't ask me what the hell that creep is doing in the Chunin exams, we don't have a clue, probably after the Sharingan I suppose. Sasuke, Yakumo, don't let your guard down and don't hold anything back. That's no ordinary shinobi, and no woman either, it isn't even a genin. That's Orochimaru of the legendary Sannin in disguise. Uchiha Itachi, the designated team leader, ordered, the trio taking on a tri-pronged formation with Kurama Yakumo taking point, and Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Sasuke a little behind on either side of her. Kukakukuku. Quite impressive Itachi-kun. Your powers of perception are really something to admire for someone so young, and your knowledge of the shinobi world is not something to sneeze at either. To think that someone so young would know enough about me to unmask me in this situation. You've clearly done your research, and you've done it well too. Orochimaru commended as he did away with his disguise. I suppose there's no longer a need for me to hide my true self anymore. What are you doing here, and what do you want with us, you creep? Sasuke demanded. I just want you to show me the power of those beautiful eyes. Is that too much to ask, Sasuke-kun? Orochimaru said with a lecherous tone. He's after the Sharingan. No, actually, not just the Sharingan, he wants a whole Uchiha body. Itachi explained to his comrades. A whole Uchiha body? Yakumo asked with a confused frown. Orochimaru is a Konoha criminal who was guilty of illegal experimentation. One of his biggest sins was his research on a forbidden kinjutsu that allows the user to discard their own body and take over that of another, a soul transfer so to speak. However, the jutsu carries a lot of risks for the user. That's probably why he wants to test our powers first, to determine if our bodies are strong enough to host him, basically, to determine if we are worth the risk. Itachi answered calmly. Kukakukuku. I guess you're the better twin after all. The academy records were accurate this time. Orochimaru said, licking his lips with that ridiculously long tongue of his. Enough talking. I'm not letting you take either of my teammates. It's time for you to die. Yakumo exclaimed, holding out her left hand to show Orochimaru her palm, in which was a tattooed moon reflected on a water surface, and below it, a reflected flower on a mirror. Kyoka Suigetsu, Yakumo whispered with a deadly tone, causing the moon and the mirror on her tattoo to release a blinding light towards Orochimaru, causing Orochimaru to shield his eyes from the danger. However, the light disappeared as soon as it appeared, almost as if it was never there in the first place. When Orochimaru opened his eyes, he was planning to launch a scathing remark about Yakumo's pathetic jutsu. However, he had no time for that as Yakumo had closed down the gap between them considerably in the short space of time that he had taken his eyes off of her. The Kurama heiress appearing in the air right in front of him, sword drawn and ready to slice through the snake Sanin's throat. How naive! Orochimaru exclaimed indignantly, unable to believe how much he was being underestimated right now. The snake Sanin spitting out the sword of Kusanagi from his mouth, the sword directed straight for Yakumo's chest. One can only imagine the snake Sanin's surprise when the Kurama heiress in front of him shattered into tiny pieces of glass when his sword made contact with her chest. But perhaps even more surprising for him was the swift removal of his head from behind by a fire-style coated sword wielded by the real Kurama Yakumo. Orochimaru's head sent flying away by the Kurama clan heiress. Yakumo not stopping her forward movement until she was standing next to her comrades once again in her original position. What an incredible attack sequence, using Kyoka Suigetsu's activation to temporarily blind the enemy and then using Earth style to travel underground yo move to the enemy's blind spot. Following that, using Kyoka Suigetsu again to make the enemy think that you were attacking from the front whereas you were actually attacking from behind, so that even if he is fast enough to react to your follow-up attack, he will only be able to defer the illusion's attack, but won't have time to defer the real one. She's gotten so much better over the last 6 months, hasn't she? Itachi thought, more than a little impressed by his teammates' accomplishments. Kukakukukukuku. Amazing. Simply amazing. You kids are no doubt the strongest batch of genin in this tournament. Well, I may be speaking too soon, but you certainly seem quite promising, so please, show me more of that wonderful power. Orochimaru said elatedly as a new and healthy body seemed to come out from his corpse, where the remainder of his neck was situated. He's still alive? Sasuke thought out loud, shock and disgust visible and audible in his facial expression and tone respectively. The power of reincarnation, I believe this is his snake-shedding technique, or body substitution technique. Itachi explained. Why Itachi-kun, you know so much about me. I didn't know I had a stalker. I should be appalled, but I'm quite flattered actually. Orochimaru said mockingly. This is no orphanary kid, no. Rather, these are no ordinary kids. If I were anyone else I would have been killed by that attack. Also, not only did she use a high-level genjutsu, but she also used earth and fire style in one attack movement. Displaying mastery over 2 nature elements, that's Jonin level. Orochimaru thought wearily. Reincarnation? Does that mean that he's immortal? Sasuke asked with trepidation, a drop of sweat rolling down the side of his face. There's no such thing as true immortality. Even if you couldn't die from physical wounds, your body would inevitably run out of chakra at some point during the battle, and you wouldn't be able to use that technique that was keeping you alive anymore. There's always a risk, and in this case, his risk is the amount of chakra it takes for him to reincarnate himself. His chakra reserves just took a massive nosedive just now. If we deliver enough killing blows, maybe 3 or 4 more, he'll be weakened enough that he'll either be forced to retreat, or just outright die. Yakumo said, turning around slowly to face the rogue Sanin, who now spotted a dead serious expression. She's also a sensor type? A very good one at that. I thought I wouldn't have to worry about her when I came here, but it seems like I should be more concerned about her than I am about the Uchiha twins. Orochimaru thought. 3 or 4 more times in that case. Itachi trailed off as he closed his eyes briefly, then opening only his right eye to reveal a new shape to his formerly 3 Tomoe Sharingan, now showing his Mangekyo Sharingan form. Amaterasu, Itachi whispered. It happened in an instant. Orochimaru didn't even get a chance to be shocked by Itachi's Manyeko Sharingan, and the next thing he knew his whole body was ignited by black flames. The flames moving so fast that he didn't even get a chance to move an inch before they were on and all over him. Gore! Orochimaru screeched in agony, the snake Sannin rolling around on the ground but to no avail. The flames incinerating him in a matter of a few seconds, the flames only dying out as soon as their target was deceased. Is he dead? Sasuke began to ask, only to be cut off by his teammate Yakumo, who had sensed Orochimaru's presence manifesting behind Sasuke. "Sasuke, watch out!" Yakumo exclaimed, but it was too late. Orochimaru breaking out of the earth right behind Sasuke with his neck elongated and aiming for a bite on young Uchiha Sasuke's neck. "Enten! Kagetsuchi!" Sasuke exclaimed rapidly, his body, in an instant getting surrounded by the black flames of Amaterasu formed into multiple large spikes, the spikes impaling Orochimaru all over his head, neck, and body before he could reach Sasuke's neck, and setting him alight once again with the black flames. Orochimaru was, once again, sent to the ground squirming and screeching, his chakra levels taking another nosedive as he was forced to reincarnate himself again. "Surrender peacefully, and you might receive a lighter punishment. Surely you understand now that all of your ninjutsu is meaningless before our visual prowess," Sasuke said with a confident smirk. "Don't get too, Sasuke. If you let your guard down against someone like him, or any enemy for that matter, you'll die," Itachi said with a grave tone. "Besides, our visual prowess is not the only weapon we have. Yakumo-chan has played an equally important part in this battle so far. Our greatest asset is our teamwork." "Why, Yakumo-chan? I'm sorry. Don't apologize, you can make it up to me later." Yakumo cut in smoothly. "Kukakukuku. Despite Shishui killing off the Uchiha clan, I never imagined that fledglings like you would be able to awaken the Manyeko Sharingan. Not even Shishui, no, I'm sure not even Uchiha Madara had access to this kind of power at your age," Orochimaru said from behind a tree in the surrounding forest, not bothering to project his voice around the forest to hide his true location as would be expected of a shinobi of his caliber, that is, because it was absolutely pointless when the enemy had such a skilled sensor type. "He's using the tree as cover to avoid our line of sight. That means that he's figured out how Amaterasu works," Itachi pointed out. "The Sharingan is a true ocular jutsu, everything about it relies heavily on eyesight. If you successfully impede a Sharingan wielder's line of sight, then you've already won half the battle," Orochimaru said, still hiding behind the tree as if playing hide and seek with a group of 12-year-old kids, which technically, is exactly what he was doing right now. "If you think obviating our line of sight will protect you from Amaterasu, then you're even more delusional than I imagined," Sasuke retorted, giving Yakumo the eye in the process. Yakumo, catching on to the message that Sasuke was trying to convey to her, quickly pulled out a small sketchbook, and with lightning speed, sketched out an image of Orochimaru burning in black flames, after which she quickly adopted a one-handed ram hand seal while focusing on the image. The effect was almost instantaneous, Orochimaru coming out of his hiding position screeching and squirming on the ground, his mind trapped in an illusion that he was really on fire, whereas he actually wasn't. There was literally no fire burning him, it was all in his mind. However, Yakumo's genjutsu was so powerful that it could wholly convince your mind that something was happening to your body, so much so that your body would start to react as if said incident really was occurring. In other words, if Yakumo made you think you were stabbed through the heart and died, a hole would appear in your chest and blood would gush out as if you really were stabbed. And if she made you believe you were on fire, your skin would melt and you would get whatever degree burns the heat she was imagining warranted. Hence Orochimaru was squirming on the floor, and was forced to use the snake shedding technique for the 4th time. However, whereas before, a seemingly fresh and healthy body had been spat out, now Orochimaru looked like a man barely able to stand on his feet. He was breathing hard and his body was slouched forward a little, and his arms were hanging raggedly on his sides as if they were dead. "I was sure that I had figured out their ocular jutsu. How is it possible that they were able to set me on fire without going through the tree first?" Orochimaru thought with a confused expression. "Judging by the look on your face, you're probably wondering how it is that I or Itachi were able to catch you with our ocular ninjutsu. However, the truth of the matter is, no one was able to hit you with their ninjutsu. In fact, you were never on fire to begin with," Sasuke said with a smirk. I must admit, I'm a little embarrassed to find myself in this kind of situation against a bunch of snort-nosed brats. But I really stooped low enough to be taken for such a fool? I was without a doubt on fire. What? Orochimaru trailed off with a confused expression, wondering to himself why that girl from the Kurama clan was showing him a sketch of himself burning. You were inside my illusion, the one I activated earlier when the battle begun, Kyoka Suigetsu. My Kyoka Suigetsu's power is absolute hypnosis, in other words, 100% control of all the 5 senses. My genjutsu is so powerful that my illusions can manifest into reality itself. In other words, I made you believe that you were burning under the black flames, and your body reacted as if you were really burning, causing severe third-degree burns and eventually killing you. And all I had to do to create this cause and effect was to sketch an image of you and focus my chakra on it. Yakumo explained, much to Orochimaru's horror and surprise. Don't bother trying to dispel it, that's not going to work on my absolute hypnosis. Besides, how do you even know if you're really trying to dispel it, or if I'm only making you think that you are? Yakumo asked rhetorically. That's impossible. There's no way you have a genjutsu that powerful, and there's no such thing as a genjutsu that can't be dispelled. Orochimaru argued. If you're surprised by this, I wonder what you would have thought of my great ancestor Kurama Aizen Sosuke. Now that was a real genius of all geniuses. My genjutsu cannot be dispelled, but it has a time limit. His genjutsu, on the other hand, well, it was said that if he caught you even once with it, you would forever be subject to his absolute hypnosis, until the day that you die. Yakumo explained, this time not just catching Orochimaru by surprise, but even his own teammates. Give up while you still can, Orochimaru. Yakumo said emotionlessly. Never. Orochimaru screeched. 10,000 snakes formation. Orochimaru exclaimed, shooting out a whole 10,000 snakes with swords sticking out of their mouths from his own maw, sending them flying at the 3 genin at rapid speeds. These kids, if I leave them alive, they'll become a threat to me in the future. It's a pity, because I wanted to take them alive to get myself an Uchiha body, but I had to take them out now and just settle for their eyes instead. It's not like I can't find another strong body elsewhere, I still have options. Orochimaru thought. Susanoo! Both Sasuke and Itachi exclaimed together, the 2 Uchiha twins, in an instant, activating full possession Susanoo. Sasuke using his arrow and Itachi the sword of Totsuka to slice up all the snakes, along with Orochimaru's waist, with one single swing. The Susanoo slashes creating a shockwave that pretty much destroyed everything in sight. Yakumo was also protected, Sasuke coating her inside his Susanoo alongside himself. It's over, Orochimaru. Silence. You're all starting to sound like a broken recorder. Yamata no jutsu. Orochimaru exclaimed, as he spat one more body out of his upper body and through the mouth, except this time, rather than a normal, human body, the snake Sanin spitting out a gigantic white snake with 8 heads and 8 tails, each of the snakes themselves made out of many smaller snakes. From the snake in the middle, the 4th snake from the right, Orochimaru's human body could be found sticking out of its mouth. I can't believe I've been pushed this far by a bunch of brats, but these are no ordinary brats. This is without a shadow of doubt an S-level battle. If I am to defeat all 3 of them at the same time, then I have to think of this battle in that manner. This is no time to allow pride to get in the way, Orochimaru thought with surprising humility, although, it could be said that the 3 genin of Team 7 had contributed to that humility, having humbled the snake Sanin on more than one occasion today. I thought he was supposed to be finished after using that jutsu 4 more times, Yakumo? Sasuke asked in frustration. He was. I don't know where he got that extra chakra boost. It's as if someone is supplying him with external chakra. Yakumo retorted. I see now. Itachi said. What is it, Itachi? Sasuke demanded. Well, if what you Yakumo said is true, then it is not a far stretch to conclude that Orochimaru right now is indeed using an external source of chakra, namely, a type of Sennin mode. Itachi explained. Sennin mode? Sasuke asked curiously. One becomes a Sennin when he attains the ability to harness nature chakra and use it to boost his own chakra and abilities. In other words, absorbing chakra from nature itself and using it in battle. Itachi explained. You can't be serious, such a thing exists? Yakumo asked incredulously. I'm afraid so. But worry not, all is not lost yet. A true master of the sage arts is able to contain the full power of a sage in his human form. The fact that Orochimaru went through such a drastic transformation shows that he has not yet mastered this art, and if he's using an unmastered art in battle, it means that we have pushed him into a corner. Itachi said, hoping those words would be enough to encourage his teammates. This is bad, my eyesight is getting worse and my chakra is draining rapidly. Also, my body is so painful I can barely move. Itachi may not show it, but I know he's going through the same thing. At this rate, it really looks like Orochimaru could defeat us by simply outlasting would be the only one left, but not only that, she'd be burdened with the responsibility to fight while protecting us at the same time. We really have to end this. Itachi, what's going through your mind right now? Sasuke thought with trepidation and concern. Uchiha Itachi, when I look at you, it feels like a joke that everyone hailed me as a once-in-a-generation prodigy. You're way ahead of your time, that's why I'll take you out first. GWA. Orochimaru gasped out. Itachi not giving him a chance to finish what he wanted to say, stabbing him right through the chest with his Susanoo's sword in the blink of an eye, so fast that Orochimaru didn't even realize what had happened until it had already occurred already. It's highly possible that my developing body is not as fast as you yet, even with my Sharingan precognition. However, I control this Susanoo with my mind and its power and other physical attributes function independently of my own organic body. Itachi said emotionlessly. Kukuku. Kukukukukuku. When is it going to sink into your head that I am truly immortal? The powers of your Susanoo are irrelevant as long as I can't be killed. What? Orochimaru exclaimed in horror as he felt a tug on his body and soul. This is no ordinary sword, this is the sword of Totsuka. You will be sealed into this gourd and will spend the rest of your existence trapped in a world of drunken illusions, for the rest of eternity. Itachi explained apathetically. This is impossible. Where did you find such a powerful weapon? I've been looking for this sword all my life. Orochimaru cried as he and the rest of his gigantic body were sucked and sealed into the gourd. Orochimaru, you were too arrogant for your own good. You of all people should have known that there are many ways to take down an opponent other than outright killing them. Itachi thought with a shake of the head, the young Uchiha quickly dispelling his Susanoo in order to preserve his energy for the rest of the exams. Sasuke following his lead in kind, also wanting to stop the rapid damage that maintaining this jutsu was causing to his eyes and body. Sword of Totsuka? When and where did he get that? Itachi, why are you always so far ahead of me? No matter what I do, I can't seem to catch up to you. Sasuke thought angrily, clenching his fists hard in frustration. Sasuke-kun. Yakumo thought with concern, under no illusions as to what was going through her teammate's mind at that particular moment. You're not even interested in avenging our clan. Your hatred is a drop in the ocean compared to mine, yet you continue to walk ahead of me. Just what is your secret exactly? Where are you getting all of this knowledge and power? Sasuke thought, utterly pissed off at the pattern his life alongside Itachi had been following since they were kids. It's a good thing that we already have the two scrolls. It would have been troublesome if we still had to go look for one after everything that we've been through with Orochimaru. Right now, we need to find a secluded area where we can recuperate, and then head straight for the tower immediately afterwards. Itachi ordered, completely content to pretend that he didn't feel or sense any of the animosity his brother was directing at him. You're absolutely right, but first, come out, all three of you. Gurren, Neji, Naruto. Yakumo said with an uncompromising tone. What the hell are you doing? Naruto whispered harshly, locking a firm grip around Neji's arm. She already knows that we're here, and that we saw everything that transpired. What's the point of hiding now? Neji responded. Damn right there's no point in hiding, the point is to get the hell out of here. Hey Gurren, what the? Oh my god, does nobody ever listen to me around here? Naruto whispered harshly, literally pulling on his hair in frustration as Gurren went on right ahead despite his protests. Your plan seems to have gone right out of the window. Neji said with an amused smirk. Okay whatever, but don't say I didn't warn you. Naruto said as he too got up and walked out from behind the bushes side by side with Hyuga Neji. Itachi-kun. Gurren exclaimed with tears in her eyes as she ran straight for Uchiha Itachi, only to be cut off by one Kurama Yakumo with a swing of her sword, sending an arc of fire flying towards the Senju princess, stopping her in her tracks as she was forced to jump out of the way. What the hell are you doing? Gurren asked angrily. That's my line. Yakumo replied emotionlessly. Do you want me to kick your ass, again? Gurren asked with a threatening undertone. That's if you can actually manage that. This is not the academy anymore, there are no restrictions here. I won't go easy on you this time around. Yakumo warned with a surprisingly calm tone. It's okay Yakumo-chan, let her pass. Itachi ordered. If you say so, Yakumo said, canceling the fire that she was streaming on her sword before sheathing it away. Itachi-kun, Gurren exclaimed as she jumped into Itachi's arms. What's wrong, Gurren-chan? Itachi asked curiously. Baka, I was worried to death, you just fought Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sannin after all. Gurren cried, holding onto the young Uchiha prodigy for dear life, as if he would up and disappear on her if she let go even for a split second. I didn't mean to worry you so much, please forgive me. Itachi said with a warm and loving smile. It's okay, I'm just glad that you're alright. I don't know what I would have done if I had lost you. Gurren sniffled. There was never a chance of anything happening, even if we had lost, we still had you as our trump card. Itachi retorted, his smile getting wider at Gurren's shocked expression. The Senju princess just now realizing that it was not only Yakumo who had been aware of their presence but Itachi too. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Itachi. How do we know that they were not after our scrolls and were just waiting for us to lose and take them for themselves? How do we know if they don't still intend to do that? Sasuke trailed off darkly. That's crazy talk, Sasuke. These are our comrades. What reason would they have to do something like that? Itachi said disapprovingly. Shishui was our cousin and comrade too. What purpose did he have for betraying us? Sasuke exclaimed furiously, Itachi choosing to remain silent as he was unable to provide an answer to that question. Sasuke-kun. Yakumo trailed off with a pained expression, unable to bear to see the man she loved so dearly suffering so much, even more so the fact that she could do nothing to relieve him of that pain at the moment. Relax, Sasuke. We have both the scrolls that we need, and so do you guys. There's no need for us to fight. Naruto replied with a neutral tone, displaying his team's scrolls to Team 7 in order to alleviate some of the tension and suspicion. Kuso. I hope this calms him down somewhat, I honestly don't want to fight against these monsters here. Naruto thought wearily, almost breaking a sweat under the intense and scrutinizing stare that Uchiha Sasuke was directing at him at the moment. And why should we trust that you won't try to take our scrolls anyway, Dobi? You might still want to take them in order to reduce the competition in the next round, better yet, to use them as bargaining tools if you encounter another team. Is that not so, Dobi? Sasuke asked tensely, his right arm slowly moving towards his kunai pouch as he prepared himself to attack. No, it's no so at all. Look, Yakumo-san is a censor type, is she not? We'll take Gurren and leave immediately if it will make you feel more at ease. You'll know we left for real when Yakumo-san's chakra radar can no longer detect us. Naruto replied, I'm not going anywhere. There's no way I'd leave Itachi-kun after what just happened. I'm staying with him until we get out of this forest. Gurren said stubbornly, causing Naruto to have to fight the urge to snarl, growl, or even scream at the top of his lungs in anger and frustration. Kuso. How stupid are you, Gurren? Can't you see this guy is just looking for any excuse to kill me? Naruto thought furiously, unable to understand why it seemed like he was the only one using his brain around here. Also wondering just why the hell Uchiha Sasuke had so much hostility towards him in particular, as he hadn't fought, challenged, insulted, or even looked at the Uchiha prodigy for over 2 years now. Well, there you have it, Sasuke. I guess we'll have to trust our comrades after all. Besides, you and I used up a lot of chakra to defeat Orochimaru, we might need the backup. Itachi suggested. Fair enough, but only under one condition. Sasuke trailed off darkly. And what would that be? Naruto asked with narrowed eyes. That you agree to let Itachi use his genjutsu on you, to make you forget everything that you saw today. Not a chance. You can forget about it, and if you insist, I'll kill all of you. Killing is allowed in the exam, is it not? Naruto trailed off with a deathly tone, slightly letting go of his reservations and inhibitions as he was honestly starting to get truly angered now. You think you can kill me, Dobi? Do you want to find out? That's enough. Both of you. Itachi exclaimed furiously, blasting the two genin with a heavy dose of killing intent. A deathly silence taking over as the tension in the forest became so thick that one could almost cut through it with a kunai or shuriken. We're comrades, we all wear the Konoha headband and serve the same Hokage, tasked to protect the home that we share. Us fighting amongst each other like this is unsightly and quite frankly despicable. Itachi said with a disappointed tone. You're being naive, Itachi. What makes you think that Shisui doesn't have any allies still in the village? If he left us alive in order to measure our vessels, then surely he must have a way of monitoring our progress and development, and if he does, it means he has at least one ally still in the village. Naruto and his teammates all saw what we can do. What if one of them is Shisui's ally? And even if that is not the case, what happens when they tell their sensei what they saw, or the Hokage for that matter? What happened to keeping our abilities hidden? Sasuke asked in rapid succession. I don't believe any of them are Shisui's ally if indeed he has one in the village, but even if they were, it's not like we can still hide our abilities anyway, because we're going to have to explain just how we defeated Orochimaru in the first place. Itachi replied with a voice of reason. Actually, you don't have to explain that. Naruto cut in. Stay out of this, Dobi. No, let's hear him out. He might have something useful to say. Yakumo cut in. What is it, Naruto-kun? Itachi asked curiously. You don't have to explain how you defeated Orochimaru if no one even knows that you defeated him. Naruto said casually, causing everyone's eyes to widen in sudden realization and more especially, total surprise, unable to believe that Naruto would even suggest such a thing. Naruto, do you realize the implications of what you're saying? Itachi asked with narrowed eyes. Of course I do. What I just suggested is borderline treason. However, that is precisely why it is a good resolution to our dispute. If we all keep this secret, then all of our heads will be on the line should the truth come out. In other words, giving each and everyone a valid incentive for keeping your abilities a secret. Don't you agree, Sasuke? Naruto asked rhetorically, causing a small smirk to appear on Sasuke's facial features. You're still a Dobi, but maybe I should give you a little more credit. You're not as dumb as I thought you were after all. Sasuke replied. Well, you're not nearly as much of a bastard as I thought either if you're willing to make such a concession. Naruto retorted. Hook, line, and sinker. Naruto thought mischievously. Why, you guys can't be serious. You realize that the price for treason is our lives, don't you? Gurren exclaimed hysterically. Stop joking around, Gurren. The Hokage is your father and you're the Senju princess. Sasuke and Itachi are the last of only 3 remaining Uchiha and Yakumo is the sole survivor of the Kurama clan. No one would be executed even if the truth came out, but we don't have to worry about that since it won't come out anyway. Naruto retorted, calmly brushing away Gurren's concerns. But you're asking me to lie to my father. Gurren exclaimed in horror, unable to believe that this was the same Naruto that she knew since she was a child. The same Naruto who used to play with her at the Hokage mansion when they were little toddlers. You're not lying to him, you're just keeping quiet. It's not like he's going to ask you about Orochimaru's whereabouts anyway. Besides, you either keep quiet or you betray Itachi, your choice. The red-haired Uzumaki said mercilessly. You've changed, Naruto. Itachi said simply. No offense, but I don't believe you knew me anywhere near enough to be able to come to that conclusion, Itachi. Fair enough. Perhaps it's time I got to know you a little better then, perhaps we can even become friends? No thanks. I don't want to be anywhere near your brother. Getting close to you means that I'd be getting close to him as well since the two of you are almost always together. And honestly, I'm not sure I like you either. Naruto replied. This guy. He's not showing any outright hate or dislike towards the Uchiha brothers. Hiju seems to genuinely not be interested in any sort of friendship. What could have made him turn out like this? A few years ago he would have jumped at the opportunity to have a friend. He used to be so desperate for companionship. I find it hard to believe that this is the same person. Yakumo thought with confusion. That's unfortunate, but I guess I can't force you into it. Nevertheless, you'll have to bear with us for the meantime, at least until the end of this round. I don't think Gurren-chan will be leaving my side anytime soon, and honestly, I don't want to leave her side either. I know it's selfish to ask, but could we at least form an alliance until we get out of the forest? I believe this alliance would be beneficial to both of our interests. Itachi offered diplomatically. I suppose there's nothing that can be done about it. We've already set up a hideout for the night. We'll go and rest there and then head for the tower in the morning. Naruto ordered. Who died and made you team leader, Dobi? Sasuke asked antagonistically. No one died. I'm the team leader of Team 11 and Itachi is your team leader, is he not? Doesn't that mean either he or I should take lead of this temporary alliance? Naruto asked rhetorically. Your team leader? Yakumo asked in surprise. I know what you're thinking, but it was Jiraiya-sensei's decision. Don't ask me why he chose me, I have no idea. Naruto said with a shrug of the shoulders. So that's why he's so different? No, actually, Naruto changed back at the academy already. It's possible that something else is the cause behind this change. The question is, what could it be? Both Itachi and Yakumo pondered, the two unable to help the feeling that something was off about the redhead, perhaps because of their superior understanding of the mind as genjutsu specialists, or perhaps by coincidence, both of them starting to be cautious and suspicious about the red-haired enigma. Orochimaru-sama should have made contact by now. There are no traces of him anywhere, and the Uchiha brothers seem completely fine and unscathed. Could it be? No. No way, there's no way that even they could have defeated him. Kabuto thought with conviction, only for said conviction to waver again just a few seconds later. But then again, Team 7 and 11 arrived at the tower together. Did Orochimaru-sama perhaps not confront them because of the extras? That must be it. Team 11 is no joke. Guren is the daughter of a Sannin and a Hokage. Neji is the genius of the Hyuga clan and Naruto is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Combine that with the Uchiha twins and the heiress of the Kurama clan and you have a team that even Orochimaru-sama should be weary of confronting on his own, especially since we don't actually know the true extent of their power. Still, even considering all of that, that doesn't explain Orochimaru-sama's sudden disappearance. Kabuto thought with trepidation, only to be cut off from his thoughts as the names of the first match of the preliminaries went up on the board. Uzumaki Naruto vs Rock Lee. Yosh. The fact that you get to go first proves that even fate has acknowledged your flames of youth, Lee. Guy exclaimed with a stupid pose. Yosh, I will definitely make you proud, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee, Guy-sensei. Lee. The spandex-wearing, bushy-browed duo exclaimed before hugging each other tightly, effectively weirding out everyone at the tower with their bromance. Those guys are weird. Weird guys are usually unpredictable and dangerous, that is, if Jiraiya-sensei is anything to go by. Naruto thought as he prepared to head down to the battle arena. I'd wish you luck if I thought that you would need it. Neji said with a small smirk. Your confidence in me is appreciated, it shall also be rewarded. Naruto replied with a small, sinister-looking smirk, accentuated even further by his whisker marks and elongated teeth. Don't underestimate your opponent, Naruto. Nothing is ever as it seems in the shinobi world. Also, I happen to know that kid's sensei very well. If he's anything like his sensei, then you're in for a very tough time down there. Jiraiya trailed off darkly. Thanks for the advice, I guess. Naruto replied offhandedly, causing Jiraiya to grit his teeth angrily at the red-haired Uzumaki's, in his opinion, obnoxious attitude. Fine, I guess you'll have to learn the lesson on your own, the hard way. Jiraiya thought darkly. All the best, Naruto-kun. Itachi said as he and his teammates walked towards the group from Team 11, the young Uchiha spotting a compassionate and friendly expression on his facial features. I'd say thank you, that is, if I thought I needed something as irrelevant as luck to win my battles. Would you stop acting like a prick for just 1 minute? I get that you didn't have the best of childhoods, but that doesn't mean you get to be a jerk to everyone without consequence. Fact is, you're not the only one that had a terrible childhood. For all you know, your life was not even the worst. Guren exclaimed with anger and disgust, a palpable silence taking over the tower as everyone's attention was directed at Team 7 and 11's direction. Itachi-kun had his whole family slaughtered by his cousin, but you don't see him acting like the world owes him and he is still trying to befriend you. Is that such a bad thing? Isn't this always what you wanted since forever? To have a true and genuine friend to play with and share secrets with? Or are you just addicted to your own misery? Guren asked brutally, much to the shock and surprise of those who knew her, as she was known as a rather reserved and cool-headed person by, well, everyone in Konoha. I'm content with the number of friends that I have, I don't need any more. Furthermore, I have no intention of making an enemy of Uchiha Shisui. If the guy was crazy and evil enough to kill Itachi's whole family, what makes you think he won't kill all his friends and loved ones too in the future? Naruto asked rhetorically. You coward, Gurren exclaimed with a disgusted tone and expression. Whatever. I've got a battle to fight, we'll discuss this later. If I'm in the mood, that is. Naruto said casually, giving Gurren his back as he turned and walked calmly down the stairs, leaving a seething Senju Gurren in his wake. The Senju princess directing a hateful stare at the red-haired Uzumaki. This is most certainly not the same Dobi. The old Dobi was weak, well, he's still weak, but at least he had guts and determination in the past. Now he just seems like a coward who avoids conflict at all costs. Who could have scared him to that extent? I want to fight that person. Sasuke thought with determination, concluding that whoever could have made such an impact on Naruto had to be an extremely strong and frightening being and therefore would suffice as a good test of his skill and ability. I was going to be merciful on you, but I can't possibly ignore what you did to Gurren-chan just now. I'm going to make you apologize, Lee said with an uncharacteristically dangerous tone and expression. After what I did to her. You do realize that she was the one insulting me, right? I didn't do anything to her, Naruto said with his hands in his pockets, a relaxed stance that Lee did not fail to take note of. Gurren-chan wouldn't say those things without a reason. It is only because you made her cry that she is the way she is now, Lee said with conviction. Tell me, how do you and Gurren know each other exactly? Naruto asked curiously. Gurren-chan is she is someone I admire greatly, Lee said with a heavy blush, something that this time Naruto did not fail to take note of. So you have an infatuation for her. Everything makes so much more sense now, Naruto said with a small shake of the head. What do you mean? Lee stuttered slightly. You have a strong infatuation for her and therefore will defend her at all costs, even to a fault. I know this because I once used to be in the same exact position as you right now. Fear not though, it is just a stage, an obstacle that you have to overcome in order to grow up. It will pass in a year or two, Naruto said with a mock comforting tone. I'll never forsake myself like that. Unlike you, I'm not a coward that will run away just because something is difficult. Circumstances aren't always favorable and people don't always start off as the favorites. It takes a man to overcome an obstacle and defeat the underdog mentality, Lee argued. That condescending tone, you're looking and talking down at me, aren't you? You really believe you can win Gurren over and make her your woman? Well, for your sake, let's hope she hasn't already started a family with Itachi by the time that happens. You guys are talking too much. This is not a talking contest but a fighting one. Leave the talking for later, or at least talk through your actions. Preliminary battle between Uzumaki Naruto and Rock Lee, begin, Hayate announced before jumping away from the two contestants. I guess we're boring everyone with our. Naruto trailed off as Rock Lee all of a sudden rushed the red-haired Uzumaki at quite an impressive speed, however nowhere near fast enough to alarm or even outwit the red-haired enigma. Naruto spinning around and delivering a devastating kick to his opponent's chin, sending him flying away and crashing into the far wall. You seem to have a lot of confidence in your taijutsu and speed. But if that is all you have to offer, then you might as well give up right now, Naruto said apathetically, his left foot still held in the air where it was when he delivered the kick to his opponent, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki slowly bringing it down as he once again faced his opponent with his hands in his pockets. He still hasn't taken his hands out of his pockets. Is he underestimating me? Kuso. How am I supposed to defeat geniuses like Neji, Itachi, Gurren, Hanabi, and Sasuke if I can't even take down a fellow dropout? Lee thought in frustration, only to be broken out of his thoughts when his sensei called out to him from the stands. Lee, Guy exclaimed, offering only a proud smile and a thumbs up when his student looked at him with an inquiring expression. Guy sensei, I thought you said I should only do that when I have to protect more than one person. Lee exclaimed in shock. It's okay, Lee. You have my permission to break that rule this time around, and if you have a problem with that then I will just give you a severe punishment later on. That's all there is to it, Guy said with a compassionate smile. Yush, thank you so much, Guy sensei. Lee exclaimed with tears in his eyes as he pulled down his leg warmers, revealing what seemed to be training weights tied around his legs. So that's why he felt so heavy when I kicked him? How much weight does he have there anyway? Naruto trailed off in surprise as his adversary dropped the weights onto the ground, the weights causing quite a massive explosion of concrete in the earth beneath, especially considering how short the drop distance was from Lee's waist to the ground. This won't be as easy as I thought it would be, it seems. Naruto thought as he adopted a taijutsu battle stance. I thought I'd first have to pound your face in before you take me seriously. Lee said with a confident smirk. Don't flatter yourself, not much has changed. You still won't be able to land a single punch or kick on me. Naruto said condescendingly. We'll see about that, Rock Lee said as he once again disappeared from his position, this time moving at nearly 5 times the speed at which he was moving before. However, much to the aspiring taijutsu master's surprise, Naruto was able to react and guard against his attack. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki not only guarding against Lee's kick but following up with a counter-attack of his own as he successfully managed to sweep Lee's grounded leg, causing Lee to lose his balance with his head heading straight for the floor because of the spinning movement of his body. With the intention to take advantage of this opening, Naruto aimed a drop kick directed at Lee's ribcage. However, Lee managed a handstand before his head hit the concrete and executed a series of back flips to get some distance between himself and the red-haired Jinchuriki. You seem surprised, Lee-san. Did you think removing those weights would give you an advantage over me? Are you disappointed that it didn't? Naruto asked condescendingly, causing a deep frown to etch onto his spandex-wearing adversary. I'll admit that your taijutsu is impressive, but I cannot afford to fail here. Lee declared with determination. Do you want me to throw the towel for you? I could do that for you if you want, I don't actually care about becoming Chunin. The only thing I care about is becoming the strongest shinobi in the world, or at least as strong as I possibly can be. Naruto said almost as if merely talking about the weather forecast, his classmates, with the exception of Gurren and Neji, wondering whatever happened to the red-haired Jinchuriki's dream to one day become the Hokage. Everyone also wondering how anyone would not care about getting a promotion, completely unable to make sense of it. I'm insulted that you would think so low of me, Naruto-san. There's no way I'd be satisfied with that kind of victory. Can one even call that a victory to begin with? Lee retorted with a calm fury. You'll never be able to win Gurren's heart if you can't even beat the rookie dead last, that's all I'm saying. Naruto said without a care in the world, though still paying mind to his opponent with intense concentration in case he actually has something up his sleeve. If removing the weights was the best he could do, and he really has no genjutsu or ninjutsu, then I won't have to worry about revealing any of my secrets, at least not yet anyway. Naruto thought with satisfaction. He's right, even though it was a brief exchange, it was more than enough for me to realize that I'm no match for him even without the weights. He's much faster than I ever could have imagined, and his taijutsu and battle sense is similarly just as well refined. I have no choice. I cannot lose here and allow Hanabi-chan and the other geniuses to leave me behind. Lee thought with conviction, crossing his arms together in concentration as he prepared to unleash his trump card. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I'm going to have to end our battle prematurely. Simon, Kai, Lee exclaimed as he started to open the inner gates, his chakras spiking up rapidly and his skin turning red as a result. Did he just do what I think he did? Naruto thought, eyes wide in surprise and sudden realization. Shomon. Kai, Lee exclaimed again, now further opening another one of the 8 gates. That's amazing, not only did he jump straight to the 3rd gate but he has managed to open the 4th one as well. No, that's not all, it also looks like he's about to open 5th gate. This guy's amazing, I can't believe just how much I misjudged him. Naruto thought as he too went through a rapid hand seal sequence, a sequence that neither Kakashi, Itachi, Neji, Hanabi, Hinata, or Sasuke recognized and just barely followed even with their dujutsu activated. Kai, Naruto exclaimed with his hands clasped together, not saying the full name of his jutsu as that would give away one of his biggest secrets, the secret that he was able to manipulate gravity with his gravity release. The technique was known simply as gravitational force release. The mechanics behind the technique were simple enough to explain, but of course impossible to execute for most shinobi except for those possessing the gravity release bloodline limit. It was a technique whereby Naruto lived, at all times, whether asleep or training, with his body constantly subjected to a gravitation force many times that of the Earth. It was in that way similar to Lee's weight training except with the use of gravity itself as an obstacle rather than simple weight training. There was a huge surge of chakra when Naruto released this technique, so much so that some of the audience actually thought that he might have been releasing the inner gates too, just as Rock Lee was, until Guy corrected them, explaining that while he didn't know what Naruto had just done, He knew enough to know that that was in fact not the 8 gates technique, especially because the chakra surge in Naruto was only brief but was constant for Rock Lee. At this point Lee had already opened the 5th gate and was ready to pounce on the young Uzumaki Jinchuriki, his skin red, his chakras surging, veins popping up on his forehead and his eyes turning pure white, looking more menacing than anyone would have thought possible when they first encountered him. I don't know what you just did, but it doesn't seem to have had much of a lasting effect. Anyway, I'll make this as swift and painless as possible, Lee said as he once again disappeared from his original position, this time at completely unreadable speed, at least to most people, attempting to take out the young Jinchuriki with a swift chop to the back of the neck with his right hand, only for Naruto, much to Lee's surprise, to swivel around and catch the aforementioned appendage with his right hand, a shockwave washing over the battle arena from the impact of the collision. Such was the power and speed possessed by the two genin at that moment. You've probably thought I was underestimating you the whole time, haven't you? But now, judging by the expression on your face, you must have realized that it has in fact been the other way around the whole time. Naruto said with that condescending tone of his, the young Jinchuriki secretly reveling at the astonished expression on Lee and probably on the face of everyone who was currently witnessing the battle. I won't lose, Lee exclaimed furiously, delivering a rapid and successive array of taijutsu attacks at full speed, Naruto matching him blow by blow. The battle proceeding in this vein for the next 3 minutes, in which Naruto slowly but surely started to get the upper hand. Rock Lee slowing down because of the inner damage caused by activating the 8 gates, caused by using a power that did not legitimately belong to him. As a result, Lee was getting double the damage he was supposed to be getting, from his own jutsu and from Naruto's attacks, of which more and more were hitting the jackpot. This process continued until Lee couldn't even move a muscle anymore, his muscles, tendons, and even ligaments completely ripped to shreds and his body sustaining multiple bruises and broken bones from Naruto's taijutsu attacks. I guess this is your limit. Do not be too harsh on yourself though, there's no shame in bowing before me. Also, I acknowledge your strength, you're a really strong and talented guy, Lee. I heard your sensei explain your situation to the others during our battle. You see, I happen to have a very good ear. I do not believe that a person can become a true great in the shinobi world with just taijutsu alone, but if I am wrong and there is someone who can, then you are at the very top of that list. That is my honest opinion, Naruto said as he stood over the broken and damaged Rock Lee, with his words able to successfully heal and mend the emotional wounds that he had inflicted on Lee during their battle, even though the PHSYICAL ones still remained. Lee crying tears as, for the first time, he was able to get someone other than his sensei to acknowledge not only his current strength, but his potential too. Winner of the first match of the preliminaries between Uzumaki Naruto and Rock Lee, Uzumaki Naruto. The sickly Hayate announced in between a coughing fit, the spiky-haired Uzumaki walking away as the paramedics took Lee away. That was quite a battle. I had no idea you were so strong and fast. You've been keeping secrets from me, Jiraiya said with narrowed eyes. It's not like I know every single jutsu and ability that you have either. As a matter of fact, I don't know anything about you beyond Shadow Clone, Rasengan, and Summoning Technique. Naruto retorted, Jiraiya's eyes narrowing even further, if that was even possible without closing your eyes, at the spiky-haired Jinchuriki. What was that jutsu that you used when Lee released the gates, Naruto? It doesn't seem like even your sensei knows about it, and I couldn't tell what it is from the hand seal sequence. Hitaki Kakashi asked curiously, which means you already know that it isn't a jutsu that you can copy even with your Sharingan. I imagine that must be quite frustrating for the copy ninja. Naruto replied casually. He sure is very good at getting on people's nerves. Kakashi reasoned. Ma, I was just curious, that's all. Kakashi replied with an eye smile. Well, good luck with that, Naruto said dismissively. So the rumors are true, he really did do a 180 change in personality. Kakashi thought with a combination of concern and suspicion. Kuso, I want to go there and congratulate Naruto-kun. He's so cool and awesome, I'm not sure how long I can control myself. Karen thought with a love-struck expression. Would you look at that, he's not just a shithead after all. He totally castrated that freaky-looking motherfucker. Tayuya thought with a satisfied smirk. Naruto-kun's personality around his comrades is quite significantly different to what it was when we met him earlier. Actually, now that I think about it, he was quite mean and antagonistic when we met him too. That was until we told him about our relation to him and intentions thereto, at which point he changed and became loving, caring, and kind-hearted. It's almost like he has two personalities. I hope he isn't schizophrenic. Hinoka thought with a worried expression. That jutsu that he used. There's something familiar about it. I feel like I'm missing something obvious here. Fuka thought to herself, only to be broken out of her thought trail by the sound of Guren's voice. You're still so arrogant and uncaring of how many people you push away and hurt. I see now that my words will never get through to you, but perhaps my fists will. Guren said with a dangerous tone. What are you trying to say exactly? Naruto asked. I'm saying that I'm going to kick your ass in the final round of the Chunin exams, that's what. Guren said furiously. That's assuming you can make it to the next round. That's enough. Both of you. You're embarrassing not only this team but Konoha as a whole with your petty infighting. I have no issue with the two of you resolving your issues in battle, however, you shouldn't publicize your dirty laundry. Jiraiya said with a voice of reason. Don't worry about it too much, Jiraiya-sama. They'll form a great bond once they get over this hurdle. They just need to figure out why they are angry and get to the root of the problem. Kakashi added his own piece of wisdom. Fat chance of that happening. I'm getting out of here after the exams, and there's a good chance I'll forfeit in the next round, especially if I'm drawn against Guren. Naruto thought with a mental smirk. Where did you learn to fight like that, Dobi? Sasuke asked, actually, more or less demanded. At the training grounds. You should try it sometime, believe it or not, training actually works. Naruto replied, ticking Sasuke off to no end. The usually aloof and uncaring Uchiha clenching his fists in anger and frustration at being brushed off by such an, in his mind, insignificant and inferior being. I want to fight you in the next round. Sasuke declared, much to everyone's surprise, although a much incredibly lesser surprise than it would have been before everyone saw just how strong the dead lasts had become in Naruto's fight with Rock Lee. I on the other hand have no interest in fighting you. Naruto replied simply. You'll have no choice but to fight me if we're drawn against each other. Sasuke replied with a triumphant smirk. I'll just forfeit before the match begins, or give up as soon as it starts. Naruto said, much to Sasuke's horror. He, along with everyone else, unable to comprehend why Naruto would do such a thing, despite having already heard Naruto say that he didn't care about a Chunin promotion. You scared, Dobi? Sasuke taunted. As a matter of fact, yes, I am. Naruto said unashamedly. Scared of wasting the energy I might need to make the trip to Omegakure, that is. Although I have to admit that I would have loved to test myself against you and your brother. That Mangekyo Sharingan of yours is quite intriguing. Naruto thought to himself, only to be broken out of his thoughts by the announcement of the next matchup. Nara Shikamaru vs Karen. You better not lose, shit stain. To Yuya said with a threatening tone. That's my line for you, unruly Yuya. Stop calling me that. Yuya exclaimed angrily, causing Karen to smirk triumphantly at her volatile sister, or rather, more volatile sister. Don't underestimate your opponent, and show no mercy. Fuko ordered with a neutral tone. That goes without saying, Ka-sensei. Karen said as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. I bet Naruto-kun doesn't like weak girls who lose in the preliminaries. Hinoka whispered with a mock-thinking pose, causing Karen's eyes to widen in surprise before settling on a determined expression. That should give her more than enough motivation. Hinoka thought with satisfaction, giving herself a mental pat on the back in the process as she watched Karen and her opponent make their way to the battle arena. I'm only going to make this offer once. You have to forfeit, that's not negotiable. The only thing that is negotiable is whether it is your life that you forfeit or the match. Karen said with a dead serious tone, giving an ultimatum that completely eradicated the bored and uninterested demeanor and attitude that Shikamaru was spotting up until now. Under normal circumstances I would have taken your offer, but I won't be able to face my father if I do, and my mother will nag me about it for the rest of my life. Most importantly though, I have a duty as a man not to be bullied or defeated by a woman, no gender discrimination intended. Shikamaru retorted. I see. Karen trailed off with a thoughtful expression. East gender discriminating bastard. I'm so going to make him pay for this, with his life. Karen thought with a surprisingly well-cloaked sinister intent, surprising because of how often she and Yuya were prone to emotional outbursts. She's well trained. This distance she has kept between us is just the right distance, not too far and not too close. She also seems to have a very cool head in battle. Most kunoichi are quick to react to any notion of male superiority in the shinobi world. I have to be careful in how I deal with her, more especially considering her apparent apathy with regards to taking a person's life. Shikamaru reasoned. Match 2, between Nara Shikamaru and Karen. Begin, Hayate exclaimed before jumping away to a safer distance. You're not going to make the first move? It's the only chance you're going to get to win, ya no. Karen trailed off in surprise, quickly jumping a full 5 meters backwards and away from her original position, her eyes now cast down towards the earth on which she was previously standing upon, or rather, towards the shadow that was now there. Shadow manipulation? That's quite a dangerous ability, and the owner of it is no joke either, using the debris from Naruto-kun and that freaky-looking dude's battle not only to increase his range but to hide the advancement of his shadows. If I wasn't a sensor type, one might have lost already. What's he doing now? Karen thought wearily, watching intently as Shikamaru pulled out a scroll from his weapons pouch, the lazy Nara clan heir releasing a pair of trench knives from the scroll with a poof of smoke. She's either a very proficient sensor type, has incredible instinct, or has exceptional observation skills and awareness of her environment. Worst case scenario is that it's all of the above. Either way, she doesn't seem like the type that would need a second glance to realize that close-range combat is not an option against someone with my ability, which means that I will have trouble getting myself or even my shadow close to her from here on out. Shikamaru reasoned. I never really thought I'd have use for these, but I'm really grateful for this graduation present, Asuma-sensei. Shikamaru thought as he channeled his chakra into the chakra-conducting knives. Those knives are made of chakra-receptive metal, aren't they? Karen asked rhetorically. No matter, I guarantee that whatever plan you might have will be rendered useless and ineffective, especially since you have no idea what I'm capable of. Even if you were a master strategist, you would still fail because it is impossible to come up with a foolproof plan without Informa. Karen trailed off, Shikamaru cutting her off with his actions as he sent the knives flying at the red-haired kunoichi, only for everyone to face fault as one knife missed completely and landed on Karen's right side and the other was way too slow for anyone not to dodge, Karen only needing to move her head to the side to evade the unorthodox projectile. That was quite pathetic. You've never practiced with these weapons, have you? Of course you didn't, otherwise you'd have known that they were not meant for throwing. Are you some kind of super idiot? Karen asked with a disturbed expression. Well, you're right about one thing. I've never practiced with those weapons before. However, I don't, and will never need to, because I don't need to hit my target to get the effect that I want. Shikamaru said with a confident smile. Oh yeah? And what kind of effect is? Karen once again caught herself as her eyes widened in surprise, finding herself unable to move even an inch of her body. You've realized it now? I was never aiming to hit you with those knives, I was aiming for your shadow. Shikamaru gloated. So I can't move my body, huh? What makes you think I even need to move my body to defeat you? Karen asked with a sadistic smirk. Stop bluffing, we both know this little game is over. If you don't forfeit, then I'm going to have to take you out. I'm only going to make you this offer once. Shikamaru said in a complete reversal of earlier, in the exact same manner Karen had made the offer to him in the beginning of the match. I prefer that you try to take me out. See, I don't believe that I'm quite done and out yet. Karen said confidently, causing Shikamaru to roll his eyes at the fiery redhead. He's using the chakra-conducting knife to restrain me, but it seems like restraining is the only thing it can do. That's not good enough though, he still needs to take me out, otherwise the proctor would have to wait until the chakra in the knife runs out and the battle would continue from then on. Now, what will he do now? How will he take me out? Karen thought in what one who could read thoughts would mistaken for masochism. Karen watching intently as Shikamaru extended another shadow from himself and connected it to her own, giving him complete control over her movements. The Nara genius pulling out a kunai from his weapons pouch, which in turn caused Karen to mimic his movements, the result being that she too pulled out a kunai from her weapons pouch. You're going for a double ko? No, you're going to let go of the shadow at the last moment and move out of the way. No, that wouldn't work either. If you have time to dodge the kunai, then so will I. That leaves only one explanation. You're going to make us both dodge and bank your money on the collision between my head and the wall behind me, knocking me out. Is that not right, Shikamaru-san? Karen asked with a sinister smirk. No wait, I'd still be restrained by your trench knife even if you pull out and dodge at the last second. Ooh. You sneaky bastard you. You're not a super idiot at all or yeah, on the contrary, you're quite the super genius. Karen said with a maniacal expression. And no way, I can't believe she figured it all out so easily. But how? Shikamaru thought in surprise, his eyes narrowing a few seconds later as he realized just how the fiery red head might have figured it out. It's the trench knife stuck on the wall behind you, isn't it? Because it is pumped full of my chakra, and because you're a sensor type, you're constantly aware of its exact position and distance in relation to your own position. That's how you figured out my plan? Shikamaru asked rhetorically, the Nara genius relatively sure that this was indeed the secret behind the fiery redhead's ability to figure out his plan up to the most minute detail. So he's going to stick to that plan, huh? To make me dodge and hit my head against the wall? Why would he do that knowing that I've already figured it out? Is he thinking that my awareness of the situation will not change the result? Or is he really jittery about taking a life? I mean, wouldn't it be better to just let the kunai hit me in the chest and kill me? Karen thought in confusion. Oh well, I guess there will be missions where you're expected to take in the enemy alive for interrogation or my favorite, for experimentation. Karen thought with a sadistic smirk. No comment? You won't concede even in the end, huh? Well, it doesn't matter whether you know my plan or not, there's nothing you can do about it as long as your body is under my control. Shikamaru declared confidently. Does that mean that you don't have an alternative plan? Because if you don't, I'll have to end the match and kill you now. Don't worry though, your death will not be in vain. You've been a most interesting experiment, one of my very best. I know more now about the world and ninjutsu than I did before I met you, but if you have more, can you please show me before you die? Karen asked with what was intended to be a sweet tone but came out as that of a deranged maniac. You've clearly lost your mind. I don't like hurting women, but I'm going to have to end this now. Forgive me, Shikamaru said as he prepared to throw the kunai knife, and that was the last thing he attempted, and would ever attempt to do in the impure world as chakra chains burst out from under the ground. The chains rapidly wrapping around Shikamaru's body and sealing his chakra away, causing the shadow he had attached to Karen to retract and go back to its normal size. Another chakra chain popping out from under the ground and removing the trench knife from Karen's shadow, enabling her to regain the ability to move her body. That jutsu. Dan, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Naruto, and many of the Jonin who knew of Uzumaki Kushina and her abilities thought in shock and surprise. Seems as though our secret is out. Kushina must have used this jutsu as well, if the Hokage, Jiraiya, Naruto-kun, and Hitaki Kakashi's reaction is anything to go by. Fuka thought with realization. Don't bother, you won't be able to use your chakra as long as you're caught by my chains. Before we end this battle, I'd like to say thank you for the wonderful display. There is nothing I enjoy more than acquiring knowledge, whether it be ninjutsu or medicine. Karen said with surprising sincerity. How did you do this? Where are these chains coming from? Shikamaru asked with a confused expression. I have the ability to manifest these chains from anywhere on my body, whether it be from my arms, my back, my hands, or even the soles of my feet. Karen replied. I see. So you had me in checkmate from the beginning, huh? I lost the game before it even started. Shikamaru said with a disappointed tone. Man, I can't believe I lost to a woman. Die you east fuck. A deranged Karen exclaimed, using her chains to dismember Shikamaru's body, head, torso, arms, and legs all flying in different directions. Ino, Asuma, and Choji all so shell-shocked that they couldn't even breathe for almost a full minute following the dismemberment. Sheer disbelief and refusal to accept this reality the only thing permeating their minds. It wasn't just Team 10 who were shell-shocked either. Everyone was actually quite stunned by the gore and sheer brutality of the execution. Hell, they were surprised by the execution itself even more than its nature, as, despite Karen declaring many times that she would kill him, no one had actually expected her to do it. In fact, the battle had been so one-sided until now in Shikamaru's favor that his death had been the furthest thing from everyone's mind. One might ask why the proctor or the other Jonin around the arena had not stopped it, but honestly, no one could have even if they had tried, because no one would have been fast enough to stop Karen before those chains did their job. Such was the speed at which Shikamaru was executed. And even if they had been fast enough, it seemed there would have been no way to stop her except to kill her, which in itself would have brought about heavy consequences as killing was allowed for participants in the exam. But an outsider killing a participant was a different story altogether. Last but not least, most of the elite had been too shell-shocked by the fact that this girl was even using chakra chains, and even more so by the meaning behind that fact. It was only a few seconds later that Ino sounded a painful death scream, and Choji lost himself to his anger and hate as he jumped over the railing and went after Karen, almost joining Shikamaru in the afterlife as Karen had prepared herself to kill him in self-defense before his sensei, Sarutobi Asuma, came to his rescue. The third Hokage's son restraining his student before he could get himself disqualified, or even worse, killed. "I'll fight you in the finals if you're that eager to join your friend in the afterlife. There's no need to be in such a rush to die," Karen said with a chilling smile. "I'm going to kill you. Get a hold of yourself, Choji. You knew this was a possibility before you entered the exams. I made it a point to warn you about all the dangers and the realistic possibility of death," Asuma said sternly. "How dare you? No, how dare you?" Karen cut in before Choji could throw another emotional tantrum. "Don't you understand anything at all? I'm pretty sure the Hokage explicitly explained everything before this round started. He told us that the Chunin exams are a substitute for war, didn't he?" "What do you think happens in war?" Karen asked. "You don't know? Well, let me educate you a little. In war, people fight, people kill, and people die. Some kill because they are just following orders. Some are actually psychopaths who use the war to legally satiate their killing urges. And then finally some are patriots who fight and kill to protect their loved ones and their home. I happen to fall under the latter category," Karen said with that insane smile of hers, everyone either completely baffled or raising an eyebrow at such ludicrous statement, because they were all convinced that she definitely fell under the deranged psychopath category. "What did killing Shikamaru have to do with protecting your loved ones and home though?" Kakashi asked, eyes narrowed dangerously at the young Uzumaki Kunoichi. He was a talented shinobi, and a very smart one too. He had the potential to be very dangerous in the future. I'd feel shitty if I let him live only for him to be the one to take my life later on in life, or even worse, those of my loved ones. If this is a substitute for war, then doesn't it make sense to eliminate all potential threats to your own home village? Isn't that what shinobi do in war? Karen asked rhetorically. Even if the Chunin exams are considered to be a substitute for war, it was implicitly stated by the proctor that killing, while no illegal, is still frowned upon in the exams. You know this but went ahead and did what you wanted anyway. Asuma exclaimed furiously, having started off calmly but unable to help himself in the end, literally fighting a battle within himself just to stop himself from throwing caution to the wind and attacking the young Uzumaki Kunoichi. If all I have to worry about is a bunch of people frowning at me, then I'd do it all over again if I was presented with the opportunity, and I'll do it again in the finals too," Karen retorted, causing Asuma to grit his teeth in anger, hate, and frustration. "You'll pay for what you've done. I'll make sure of it," Choji said with a vengeful and ominous-looking expression, totally contrary to what is usually associated with the plump bundle of joy and compassion. Karen snorting arrogantly at the Akamichi air as she made her way back to the waiting area. Tenten vs Hinoka. It's unexpected for Lee and Guy Sensei to be so gloomy, they aren't even cheering for me, Tenten thought with an air of depression surrounding her. What's wrong with you? You don't look very enthusiastic about this battle at all. Am I boring you? Hinoka asked curiously. Ma, I guess that Shikamaru Guy's death affected them more than they are willing to let on. Tenten thought with a small sigh. I'm neither bored or excited, just. Tenten trailed off, in the blink of an eye pulling out a bunch of kunai and shuriken and throwing them at the aim kunoichi from different angles as she ran a full circle around the redhead, Hinoka pulling out a single kunai which she used to calmly deflect each and every kunai thrown at her, completely dodging the one that had an explosive tag attached to it instead of deflecting it like the others, making sure to distance herself as far as possible from it as possible. Just professional, Tenten said as she finally finished her previous sentence, also finishing her traditional method for sizing up her opponent. She accurately and calmly deflecting each and every kunai that I threw with minimal movement, and she was instantly able to recognize the danger from the explosive tag and make an equally instant decision on how to deal with it, all of this without a single wasted movement. It's clear that I'm not only dealing with a skilled opponent, but an intelligent one as well. Tenten thought analytically. Are you done with your analysis? If you are, I'd like to start now if you don't mind. Hinoka drawled out robotically. She's mocking me? Well, I guess it's not entirely unwarranted. The self-proclaimed weapons mistress of Konoha thought as she pulled out a small scroll from her weapons pouch, from which she released two exponentially bigger scrolls, the two scrolls almost as big as she was. I didn't want to use this so early in the game, but the combination of my analysis, instinct, and common sense tells me that you're just as dangerous as your sister, possibly even more dangerous. Tenten trailed off ominously, the aspiring weapons mistress throwing the scrolls into the air and jumping in between them as they unfolded. Following that, Tenten spun around until she was upside down and went on to adopt a ram hand seal which activated the seals on the now open and spiraling scrolls. The scrolls releasing a barrage of kunai and various other weapons at rapid speeds towards the young Kuro Aim Kunoichi. Hinoka, thanks to her keen observation skills, quick to notice that all the kunais out of the batch of weapons thrown at her had explosive tags attached to them. Summoning technique. Black Serpent, Hinoka whispered as a gigantic black serpent-like creature with two red horns at the top of its head appeared with a poofing sound and a puff of smoke. The serpent quickly removing the cloud of smoke as it immediately swirling its coils around Hinoka at such a speed that it looked like nothing more than a black vortex was swallowing Hinoka whole. Except that wasn't what was happening, and the serpent's coils were deflecting each and every weapon from Tenten's barrage even as the explosive tags on the kunais detonated. It felt like an eternity to the spectators, or at least a couple of minutes, but it was only a couple of seconds that all of this took place, and when it ended Tenten had prepared herself to take advantage of the slight moment of relaxation from her opponent to catch her off guard. She's intended to pull the weapons that survived the blast barrage with the near-invisible wires she had attached to each one of them and attack from Hinoka's blind spot. However, Hinoka's black serpent had no intention of disappointing its master, the serpent instantly switching from defense to offense as it sprung on its coils and flew towards the airborne weapons mistress at rapid speeds, covering the gap between them in an instant, its maw wide open as it swallowed the weapons mistress whole. Or so it thought, as out of nowhere a figure moving even faster than the super-fast snake took hold of the weapons mistress and moved out of the way within that instant. Even at that moment though, the only thing on the serpent's mind was getting back to its master and protecting her at all costs, hence why, having failed to dispose of the enemy, its first reaction following that was to return to its master and switch back to defensive mode, coiling its near-indestructible coils around the young Uzumaki. What do you think you're doing, Naruto? That woman was meant to serve as Shikoku-kun's next meal, Hinoka said somewhat irritably, although it was quite hard to tell with her emotionless disposition. Naruto on the other hand having already placed Tenten behind him and standing in front of her protectively. Oh, ehehehe. Please forgive me, Hinoka-chan, I was not aware of that. Naruto replied with a nervous smile, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Never mind that. Why did you save her anyway? You didn't think you were the type to interfere in other people's battles. Well, you see, I kind of like her. Naruto said, much to everyone's surprise, none more so than Tenten and Hyuga Hinata, although those who knew about he and Ami's married status might have been just as shocked as those two were. Why, you like her? You mean you have romantic feelings for this girl? Since when? Hinoka asked with an emotion that Naruto was not quite sure if it was really there or just a figment of his imagination. Hey? No. That's not what I meant. I mean, I don't even know her that well. Hell, I've never even spoken to her. What is the deal then? Tell me now. You don't want to be Shikoku-kun's next meal, do you? Hinoka asked with a threatening undertone. Okay, I'll tell you if you tell me what the secret is behind Shikoku-san's incredibly tough skin. Naruto said with a mischievous smirk. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I guess I don't know what you're talking about either. Okay, geez, you're such a nuisance. Hinoka said in exasperation, causing Naruto to smile fondly at her, something that wasn't missed at all by the now silent spectators, everyone, even the proctor watching the scene with a combination of intrigue and suspicion. Shikoku-kun's skin is special in that it is literally made of black diamond. Diamond is one of the toughest elements in the world, if not the toughest. It's practically impenetrable, Hinoka explained. Now, out with it. What is the meaning of this intrusion? Hinoka demanded. Well, I recently created a bunch of powerful weapons, and I discovered two on top of that. These weapons are so powerful that anyone who can master and wield all of them can attain the power to rival that of even a cage, possibly even surpassing that of Cage. Naruto trailed off for dramatic effect, taking in everyone's surprise and curiosity and especially taking joy in the effect he suspected his words might have had on the weapon's mistress, now starting to regret placing her behind him as he wanted to see her facial expression right now. "And you want to give those weapons to her? Why?" Hinoka demanded, eyes narrowed in suspicion and a little trepidation, now starting to consider the pros and cons of their decision to recruit Naruto into their fold. "I told you about my goal in life when we first met, didn't I? To become the strongest shinobi in the history of the elemental nations. Well, I wasn't just talking about my individual strength as you might have thought at the time, I was talking about my clan too. As a leader, your power is not measured only by your own power, but also by that of the people who work for you, the people you associate with, and the people that are part of your family. I told you that I planned to form a special four-man unit, didn't I? Well, I think I may have found the fourth member of that unit in Tenten-san. She is the person I have been looking for, the person who can wield those weapons and use them to their full potential. You understand what that means, right, Hinoka-chan?" Naruto asked with a meaningful expression. "Kuso. I can't believe I ever doubted him. I feel so bad right now for even thinking that way of him." "Yes, this actually makes perfect sense." Naruto-kun said he wanted to form a four-man team that would help him defect and make his way to AIM, but he said there were only 3 of them at the time. That means that Tenten is the 4th member of that team, or at least, he intends for her to be that 4th member. He also understands that there is no longer a need to pretend that we do not know each other because he, just as I did, saw the reaction from some of the Konoha higher-ups when Karen-chan used the chakra chains. Hinoka thought, this will force the Konoha higher-ups into action, but what action that will be is unknown even to them. That being because Naruto-kun has only confirmed that we met each other before, but nothing beyond that. Konoha have to first confirm what Naruto knows before they act, but how do they confirm without alerting him to the secret that's being kept from him? The answer is simply that they can't. From their point of view, if they ask too many questions about us, then they will make him suspicious. If they want to confirm whether he knows that we are of the Uzumaki clan or not, then they have to tell him that we are Uzumaki. The same applies if they want to know what we told him, otherwise he'll just say we never mentioned anything of significance. If they take him to the torture and interrogation department, then they risk estranging themselves to their Jinchuriki and the Great Yellow Flash's son. Also, showing interest in another Konoha Kunoichi and declaring that he wants to not only make her stronger but to befriend her as well as a good card to play because it makes them think that no matter what the situation, Naruto has too many ties in Konoha to defect. Naruto is effectively going to be controlling their thoughts from now on until the time that he defects. He's the type that takes big risks when formulating strategies, but that is also what makes him so brilliant. He has a lot of charm and charisma too. I'm so excited right now, I can't wait to see how this all pans out in the end. Hinoka thought excitedly. Why did you choose her though? I mean, honestly Naruto, she's just seems too weak to me, and she doesn't have a particularly outstanding talent either. Hinoka said dismissively. That's not true. No, she's right, it's true. I'm not particularly good in ninjutsu, my chakra is nothing special, and I don't have a bloodline limit. Even my taijutsu is just above average, but nothing compared to Hanabi-chan and Lee-kun. Honestly, I don't know who I was trying to kid, I'll never be as great as Tsunade-sama. Tenten said depressively, head hung down in shame and embarrassment at the crushing defeat she just suffered at the hands of one of the Uzumaki princesses. You want to be as great as Senju Tsunade of the Saninha? Well, all you need to master my weapons is a passion for, well, weapons, and a lot of chakra and skill with the weapons. You already have the passion and skill part, you just need the chakra now. Didn't you hear what I said? My chakra is nothing special. Tenten said dismissively. But mine is special. My chakra is strong and I have more chakra than even the Hokage. I also happen to be very proficient in chakra manipulation, such as chakra transfer and syncing techniques. Naruto trailed off with a smile that widened even further at Tenten's shocked expression. Chakra transfer and syncing? Tenten asked with wide eyes. Yes. It means that you'll be able to train even when you've exhausted your reserves. I'll just transfer and sync some of my chakra with you to replenish your reserves over and over again. In other words, you'll be able to train for 10 or more times beyond your limit, and therefore increase your own reserves exponentially as a result. By the time I'm done with you, you'll have one of the highest chakra reserves in the elemental nations. You'll be able to use the weapons I have made for you without consequence, and you'll master them too. Naruto explained. So cheer up, okay? It's not the end of the world. You can and will still surpass Tsunade-sama of the Sannin. I'll personally make sure of it. Naruto said softly, now caressing Tenten's cheek with a tender and caring expression. Why are you doing this for me? I mean, we don't even know each other? Tenten asked with a touched and yet confused expression. I'll admit I have my own selfish reasons for helping you, but don't sell yourself short. As I said earlier, it is your talent and passion that has predominantly won me over, so you should take some credit for my decision. As far as selfish ambitions go, I want my weapons to become legendary and known as some of the most powerful in the elemental nations, and for that I need the best weapons user in the elemental nations to become the wielder. I see that kind of potential in you, and at the end of the day we can call it an equivalent exchange, as in, you will enhance the reputation of these weapons and vice versa. Naruto explained. Naruto-san, I'm glad you feel that way about me. It makes me really happy. In fact, no one has ever said anything so nice about me. But I'm afraid you have the wrong person. I don't have that kind of talent. I'm not worthy. I'm weak. Tenten said apologetically, a depressed and self-loathing expression morphing onto her facial features, tears now free falling from her eyes. You're wrong about everything you think about yourself. The only thing I might agree with is the last part. You are indeed quite weak. Naruto trailed off, everyone's heart in their mouths at Naruto's sudden brutality, none more so than Tenten herself, who as much as she thought she was honest with herself, felt extremely disappointed and frankly heartbroken at Naruto's character assassination of her. However, your weakness is not because you lack skill or talent. It is because you don't have anything to fight for. In other words, it is because you don't have a source of motivation. Tenten-chan, I know that you're a fan just like I am. I've seen you before at the quarterly meetings of the Famed Aspiring Ninja Fund. You were given an all-expenses-paid apartment and received a monthly allowance for groceries, clothing, and shinobi appliances when you were at the academy, didn't you? Naruto asked rhetorically. What does that have to do with anything? Tenten asked defensively. It has to do with everything. I'm a fan like you, and I too was weak for a very long time. I trained hard, I worked hard, and did everything I could to improve myself. But I was always weak. It wasn't until I found a reason to live, until I found something precious to fight for, that I was able to truly become strong. Tenten-chan, I want to be your source of strength. I want to be that something that you want to fight for. I understand the pain of being all alone in the world all too well, possibly even more than you do. That's why I can be that important person for you. You don't have to be alone anymore. In fact, you don't even have to be a fan anymore. I want you to become part of my family, part of the Uzumaki clan of Konoha. Naruto said with a loving and caring smile. Uzumaki clan? Is there even such a thing? Tenten asked with a wide-eyed expression, unable to quite believe what she was hearing right now, unable to even believe what was happening altogether. In fact, of course there is. Clan law implemented by Naidame-sama stipulates that any two people with special abilities, secret techniques, forbidden techniques, or bloodline limits, who have the intention to marry and reproduce, and intend to use the same clan name, qualify as a clan by operation of law with immediate effect. And before you freak out, don't worry, you won't have to marry me. I am already married to another woman who has special abilities just like me. You can sign an irreversible contract with me and become a member of my clan. The price for this is absolute loyalty to me as the clan head, and the benefits are near unrestricted access to all jutsu and knowledge from my clan. We'll chalk up the weapons as a gift for joining the clan, and you can monopolize their use in your branch of the family. Either way, even if you don't agree to join my clan, you can still have the weapons if you agree to allow me to train you for at least 1 month. You don't have to join if you don't want to, but if you ever feel like you need a place to belong, you'll always be welcome. Naruto explained clearly and concisely, watching nervously as an unidentifiable expression appeared on Tenten's facial features. Naruto. Tenten exclaimed as she jumped into Naruto's arms, squeezing so tight on the spiky-haired Uzumaki that he could almost swear she just broke one of his ribs. Naruto, you truly are a kind person, aren't you? Tenten said disbelievingly. Only to those that are close to me, or those that I am willing to allow to get close to me. Naruto replied with a small smile, causing Tenten to giggle at that response, rolling her eyes at what she thought was Naruto's masculine facade, not knowing just how soon she would find out just how true those words actually were. Anyway, I can't make a big decision like joining your clan out of the blue. I need time to think about it, and I'm going to need you to give me an in-depth presentation where you tell me everything I need to know about the clan later on. And I'm also going to need you to give me time to further think about it after the presentation. And then finally I'll make a decision. I will however accept the training and the weapons, and I want to begin as soon as possible. Tenten said, trying to but unable to master the strength or will to leave Naruto's embrace as she declared her conditions. That's fine by me. I wouldn't have it any other way. Naruto said as he kissed Tenten at the top of the head, his left hand rubbing up and down on her back soothingly. That's enough, you two. Save the rest for the bedroom. Hayate said disapprovingly, causing both Naruto and Tenten to blush in embarrassment as they both quickly let go of each other. The winner of this round by disqualification is Hinoka of Omegacure, Hayate declared, Hinoka following a distance behind both Naruto and Tenten as she headed for the staircase leading to the balcony, not before expressing her gratitude to her summon before dispelling it though. His powers of manipulation are second to none that I have encountered before. Naruto-kun truly is amazing. I can see now why Karen is so infatuated with him after spending such a short time with him, and I can see why Oto-sama was so interested in him. He'll make an amazing addition to the family and Omegacure as a whole. I no longer have any doubts at all. He has both the power of the body and the power of the mind. Hinoka thought with conviction.